What's going on, everyone? Today I'll be going through all 96 Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks and trying to figure out which one is the worst of the worst as well as the best of the best. And I've done this kind of thing on the main channel before a couple of times. There's some ranked videos on all the Mario Kart 8 tracks as well as all the DLC tracks, but not all of them combined. So I think this will actually be kind of interesting to see because I've never really tried to mesh these together. Yeah, this is going to take a while. I don't know how long this video is going to end up being, but it is 96 tracks. So sit down, get some popcorn, or if you're at work or something, hopefully I can entertain you for a little while. Let's just jump right into it, and we will start with good old Mario Kart Stadium. Now, this, of course, is it's the very first track that most people play. In Mario Kart 8, it is meant to be a beginner track, and basically you're just in a huge stadium, and it kind of shows off the gravity mechanic to an extent. It doesn't do a great job showcasing it necessarily. I think like a better track is of showing it off is something like Toad Harbor, where you're actually driving on the walls and stuff. But alas, you kind of get the idea right, with the track being like kind of like facing like directly up, and you kind of get an idea of how that works to an extent. But with all that said, Mario Kart Stadium, it's just kind of fine. And it's a beginner track, so it's a starting track. You can't really expect much out of it. There's really not much to say about it. I think it looks nice, and I do think it does a great job getting people excited to play the game. I remember when I played Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I still remember that day, launch day. That was like May 30th or May 31st of 2014. Oh my God, 12 years ago. That is actually absurd. But I was very excited for the game. Did I care that much for the track back then? Not really. I'm like, yeah, this is a track. But I wouldn't say it's bad. I just think it just does just enough to get the point across. So you know what? I think we will throw this in D tier to start things off. And now, next we have Water Park. And this one is a little bit more interesting. I wouldn't say it's the craziest track of all time, but I do think this one does a pretty good job showcasing how the water works in the game. Now, of course, in Mario Kart 7, you could drive underwater too. In this game, same thing applies. You can also drive through the water, all that good stuff. What I like about this one is not only is it a water-based track, but it's also a roller coaster track, which you don't really see very often in Mario Kart. I'm really trying to think back to some of the older tracks. Maybe there was like one or two that were kind of roller coaster themed, but I can't really think of anything that's quite like this. It's really a fairly unique track, but it's also fairly basic. It's got like one really long turn halfway through, and then at the end you have this little like glider ramp section. So I guess it's like, it's kind of neat, but at the same time, it is pretty basic, and there's really not too much to it. So I think if I were to rank this, it's probably like, I mean, I would say better than Mario Kart Stadium. Not a lot better. I don't necessarily want to put it in D tier. I think this will end up being like a low C tier, though, if I had to guess. It'll probably end up being a low C. I think that's probably fair for Water Park. And now we have Sweet Sweet Canyon. And this one, I've always found this one to be kind of fun. It's a candy theme / cookie theme track. You're driving around on what's essentially like a huge cookie-ish road. You've got like syrup for the water, and you're like driving through it. Or maybe it's like, I guess it's more soda than syrup, but there is also syrup on the road. All the NPCs, the enemies in the background, are like gingerbread, like cookies and stuff. It does a really good job encapsulating the idea of basically playing on just a bunch of like random cookies and sweets. And I think what's really cool about the track is the fact that it splits into two halfway through. I don't know if there's a route that's faster necessarily. I think they're about the same speed. Although I'm no speedrunner, maybe there is a specifically faster route potentially. You couldn't ask me. It's not the place to ask. But yeah, I like Sweet Sweet Canyon. I just don't think you know, it's weird because I feel like I'm going to be saying there's not much to this track. There's not much to this track. There actually is quite a lot to this one. Even like things as basic as like the cones, like how the traffic cones, even those are like ice cream now. Like they turned it into like ice cream cones. That's such a cool little touch. I think there's just so many fun little touches with the track. But the thing is like the design of the track itself just isn't super interesting, but the aesthetic is really, really fantastic. And I think for that reason alone, I kind of have to put this, I think I have to put this in B tier. I think this has to be a B. Now, I don't think it'll end up being a very high B because there are lots of tracks that I would rather play than this one. And I do like this track a lot, but again, this is in the first cup of the game, so the level design itself, or the track design, is not going to be anything inherently super interesting, but I really like the aesthetic. I think it at least belongs in a B tier. I think that's perfectly fair. Okay, and next we have Thwomp Ruins. Now, this is where I would say the game really starts to pick up in terms of really showcasing what it can do. It is well, obviously you're like driving through a bunch of different ruins. You've got thwomps that are kind of like trying to crush you along the way. But what I really like about the track is just how many different routes you can take. You can drive on the wall, inside like the ruin area. You can split up into multiple different pathways, either going into the water, driving across the wall, or taking a risk and just driving straight, but also having to avoid a thwomp. And there's also a fun little shortcut at the end that isn't necessarily hard to hit, but it does take a little bit of effort. That is something I actually really like about this track, and also the Mario Kart World tracks, is just how many little tiny shortcuts have been hidden inside the track itself for you to use if you so want to. And I really like the song in the track too. It's a very adventurous feeling song. It looks really, really nice even to this day. It's a very, very solid track. I think I'd probably rather play this over Sweet Sweet Canyon. I don't think it is the most incredible track of all time, but I do think it is a really, really good one. So I think, yeah, probably a B tier, and maybe I'll end up moving this to A tier because I think this is probably one of the classics at this point. It's like, when you come back to like Mario Kart 8 after all this time, I think a lot of people think of tracks like Sunshine Airport, Mount Wario, Thwomp Ruins, potentially. But I think just because, like, once again, level design doesn't really get all that difficult or not necessarily that crazy, I think it probably still belongs in B tier. And now we move on to one of many Mario circuits. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them in this game, which is really funny. But this one is kind of cool. It does it's basically just like a big figure 8, which I guess like Mario Kart DS also had. They had the figure 8 circuit as it's probably one of the most boring tracks in Mario Kart existence. But at least with this one, it takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom kind of world. And this is probably the first track where you're really getting a grasp of how the gravity genuinely works, because the castle, you can see it in the background halfway through the track, and it starts to flip upside down as you're driving across. And it looks really damn cool. There's also like a bunch of like mushroom houses and all sorts of things that are just kind of like flipping and rotating all around you, and it's a little bit disorienting at first. But as a track itself, there's really not much to it. Like, it basically just is a figure 8 circuit. Like, it's a little more complex. There's like, what, 2 extra turns, maybe 1 extra turn beyond it just being a figure 8. So I think for that reason it probably has to be a D tier. Maybe even an F tier. Like, it's just, I don't think I can put it in F tier because I do think the aesthetic is kind of cool, and it does do a really good job at showcasing the gravity mechanics. So I think probably a D tier is fine. I'm going to put it a little bit lower than Mario Kart Stadium, though. But, like, they're kind of on the same level. It's like, yeah, you're still just kind of getting used to the game. This is just one of the early tracks. Yada, yada, yada. That's what this still kind of feels like to me. All right, and now we're moving on to Toad Harbor. Now, this is another track where when I think about Mario Kart 8, this is one of those tracks that might instantly pop up into my mind. This track's freaking awesome. It's like roughly based on San Francisco, and it just has so much cool stuff to it. You can ride across these sunroofs. Of course, there's like a huge road section with tons of like cars and like trains and stuff. I guess not trains. You know what I'm saying? I can't think of the word right now. The trains, I guess, you know what? They are technically trains. We're just going to call them that. Of course, you can drive on the wall itself, and it's significantly slower, but it is still kind of cool to do because not only do you drive on the wall, but you also do like jumps and like tricks and stuff, which is pretty neat. There's a few different routes that you can take as well. And this does feel like the first track that starts to finally kick things up a little bit in terms of the track design. The turns start to get a little bit sharper. And overall, there's just a little bit more that you have to think about. And I really like that about the track. Now, the question is, where are we going to throw this on our list? Is this a B tier or an A tier track? It's really, really hard to say. I almost want to put it in A tier just because I just think there are so many, like the routing is very intricate, especially for one of the tracks that you play near the beginning of the game. But it's also not like, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a mind-boggling track per se. Like, really, it is just like, here's a city track, right? But it really tries to do a lot with that idea. It really does. We've seen so many city tracks in the past, especially from this game. But I think this is probably one of the most unique city tracks in the entire game. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it probably is the most unique one, even compared to all the tour tracks that have been thrown in. So, you know what? Let's actually throw this in A tier. Now, maybe this is a little bit high. I might end up pushing it down to a low A. But I think this track really does a good job in signifying what Mario Kart 8 is and what makes it such an incredible game. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and move on to Twisted Mansion, our very first Ghost-themed track. And this one is honestly awesome. Once again, it does a great job showing off the gravity gimmick. You like immediately start and you got these like wavy carpets on the walls and you have to try to like trick off of them and stuff. And then like off to the left, there's like this hidden library shortcut that you could take. And then next thing you know, you're in the water and you're just like weaving, and I was going to say weaving and wobbing, weaving and bobbing, whatever kind of word you want to say, however you want to describe it. I think you get the idea though. This track can get really, really wonky, and it doesn't necessarily make the track like spooky or anything. This is a Mario game. There's not going to be an actually scary haunted house, but I really like what they did here. Like, again, like I think like especially like the middle portion of the track itself does a great job showing off the gravity, and I just think it's like a generally fun track to play as well. Now, I do think maybe too much of it takes place in the water, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But because you're in the water so much, it does slow down the gameplay a little bit, but I don't necessarily think it's that much of a fault. So now let's just figure out where the heck to put this. Now this gets really difficult. Like, we're going to start getting to the point where it's really, really hard to, like, try to place these in between other tracks, because already we're at the very beginning still, and there's just, like, most of these tracks are, like, pretty good to, like either solid to, like, really, really great. But I think just for the fact that you do spend a lot of time in the water, I don't know if I can necessarily put it in A tier. Maybe this goes in B tier. Oh, this is really hard. Ooh, I don't know. Maybe we're going to put it in between, I guess, Swamp Ruins and Sweet Sweet Canyon. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what we're going to go with, I suppose. All right, and next we have Shy Guy Falls. This, I think, is our first S tier. This track is absolutely incredible. I don't think it's the best track in this game, but it is a contender for like top 10 or top 20. Shy Guy Falls absolutely slaps. First off, it is the first track to introduce the Shy Guys wow. It's kind of become like an iconic sound effect or sound bite that they make in the game. So, really, really great track for that. It starts off kind of basic. You're like, oh, okay, cool. We're just driving around a valley. And the next thing you know, you're climbing up a waterfall with speed boost shooting you up top. And then it's like next thing you know, you're on this like bridge doing this crazy turn. Then you're going down the waterfall. And then you're soaring off of it back on to, I guess, like the valley / mountain. Like, pretty wild. Like, a lot of these tracks have shown off what the gravity can do, but this one really is like the first one that makes that idea super exciting. Like, okay, here's this place, here's this kind of environment that we've had before in so many different Mario Kart games. What can we really do to turn it on its head? Oh yeah, let's drive up a freaking waterfall. And then like you have like water splashing on your face at the same time. Such a cool idea. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's my favorite. Like I said, it's going to be hard to find an absolute favorite out of all of these. I don't even know if I'm going to agree with myself after going through all 96 of these, since this is off the top of my head. But yeah, I still think this is an S tier contender. It definitely belongs there. It's a banger. Not the greatest track of all time, but goddamn, it is so, so good. And now we move on to another absolutely fantastic track, and that is Sunshine Airport. Now, this one, ooh, man, this is definitely a contender for top 10. I just love the theme. The theme of driving through an airport, you're going across cargo, you drive through a freaking airplane, and then you're like flying through the air at the very end while watching planes take off from in front of you. Oh my god, this track, it just has it all. Like, I guess you could technically count it as a city-themed track because you're on, like, a road, but, like, this is so far away from what a typical city-themed Mario Kart track is like. This is very, very different, outside of the fact that, sure, maybe parts of it look the same, but not really. Like, this is just such an incredible... Like, it's a very, very unique idea, just in general. I'm honestly kind of surprised we've never seen Mario Kart attempt an airport track until now. Like, I thought we would have seen it by the time we got to, like, Mario Kart Wii or 7, but here we are. It made it into Mario Kart 8. It's an absolute banger. I still get excited, even though I have played this track, like, probably 400-500 times. I've literally played this track hundreds of times, and it's still such a banger. It has great flow, too. It's not too difficult, but it does just enough to require a little bit of thinking with the way that you're drifting with this track, and I can really appreciate it for that. I do genuinely think this is going to end up being a top 10 contender by the time we're done with this. Sunshine Airport, just freaking awesome. All right, and now we have Dolphin Shoals. Now, Dolphin Shoals, this is a very interesting one because the entire thing takes, well, for the almost the entire thing takes part in the water itself, which, yes, makes the stage a little bit slower, sure. And I think that alone doesn't make it, like, one of my favorites. It does make it a really good one still. But I think what makes this one so unique, there's really two aspects. One, it is once you get halfway through, you have a bunch of pipes blowing air up into the water, and you can, like, trick off it and stuff. There's, like, so many different routes you can take. And I think that just adds a ton of replay value to the track. You got the big Unagi in the middle where you can, like, trick off its tail. And then when you burst out of the water and you're on land for, like, 10 seconds, out of nowhere, the saxophone kicks from the music, and it just feels amazing every single time that you do it, because the game has, like, two different versions of the music, and I just think it's awesome the way that they just incorporate the saxophone. It just, like, makes the entire track feel so much more exciting when they just kick that in after spending so much time, like, clawing your way through all of this water and whatnot. But with that said, I still don't think it's one of my favorite tracks ever. I'm not exactly sure. Now, it's not a C tier. I'm not going to, like, put all the water tracks together. Like, this is much more interesting than Water Park. I think there's so much more to it, especially with the music. I think this is it's either a B tier or an A tier. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing for the vast majority of these tracks. It's going to be S tier, A tier, B tier. That's probably going to be most of these tracks. But the question is just where to put Dolphin Shoals. Oh, man. I think we got to put this... I think I like it a little bit more than Twisted Mansion, but not a lot more. And I'd probably still argue Thwomp Ruins is slightly better. But, like, at this point, it's hard. This is, like... It's so hard to really try to, like, go through and pick favorites when so many of these just have so many great qualities to them. Okay, but next, we're going to be moving on to Electrodrome. And this one has another contender to be an S. I absolutely love this. It's like a big electro, like, disco-y kind of track. I've always loved the TV in the background where you got, like, the Koopas and all the enemies and stuff, like, jamming to the music. And that's what's so great about the track itself is the music. It is just so goddamn catchy. It makes me want to start jamming out. I'm not even much of a dancer, but this song makes me just want to do a little jig. You know what I'm saying? Like, you listen to the song, and you just get into it. You really start to just feel it. It's just so damn cool, and it does a really great job with the gravity as well. Halfway through, you have this, like, green and pink path that split up, and they get all, like, wavy and curvy and very, very twisty, which is cool. And then there's, like, parts of the road where basically there's like little like electric bits that kind of like follow you from behind. That's really cool. Like, I just think aesthetically the track is extremely fun to look at. But also on top of it, like, the track design is also really, really good. I wouldn't say it's like the best track design per se. I do think maybe it's a little on the basic side, since so much of it is just like, oh, here's like a long turn. That is a lot of what this track is, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's still really, really fun. Regardless of the fact, the design itself is maybe a tad on the basic side. This is still like an A tier or an S tier. Oh man, I actually don't know where I'm going to throw this. I think, ooh, for the music alone, I think we have to throw this in S tier. Now, I don't know if it'll end up like in the top 10 or top 20, but I think right there is going to work for now. Okay, and now we have what honestly might still be the best Mario Kart 8 track. That's freaking Mount Wario. It's a basic concept. You go from the top of a snowy mountain to the bottom. But the way that it's executed is done so brilliantly, because every single lap is like, you're not just going from like top to bottom. Like, no. You go from top and then you end on the bottom. It's one of those tracks where all 3 laps are unique. And this one, what makes it so special is just the fact that it really does feel like you're actually going down a huge snowy mountain. You start off at the top, and it's very like icy, and it's a little bit slippery and whatnot. And then when you hit like the second lap, you start to get inside a bit of this mountain itself, and it's got a little bit of running water. You have, there's just like all sorts of stuff that's happening. And then like you get down to the bottom, there's like a big dam that you have to worry about with rushing water. And then like there's a snowy section with a bunch of trees to avoid. And then by the end, it's like a ski course almost, where you're just like downhill skiing, and you have to like, you don't have to go through like the red and blue flag poles or whatever, but you can if you want. But there's just so much variety, and not only does this track have so much going on, but it's also just really, really fun. It's very intricate. There's tons of like little tiny shortcuts that you can take along the way as well. It's challenging. It honestly has everything that I love to see in Mario Kart tracks, and I think for that reason, it's gotta be like at the very top. It's just absolutely incredible. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna have it be like my favorite track, considering how much has come out since then, but this is definitely gonna be like a top 5, top 10. Mount Wario is just freaking awesome. Like, from beginning to end, it's an exciting track to play. And then the music is just great on top of that. Again, it's a very adventurous / exciting kind of like tone to the music itself. So yeah, absolutely love Mount Wario. Really, really good one. And now we move on to Cloud Top Cruise. This one's always really fun to me because it, like, the music, like a minute in, throws in the, I think it's Cloudy Court Galaxy. It like throws in a remix of that into the song itself. I've always found it to be kind of fun. But what I really like about Cloud Top Cruise is it is a cloud-themed track that goes a little bit farther with the sky theme than we typically see in Mario Kart tracks. Like, we've had sky-themed tracks before, but we've never had one where you fly into a thunderstorm, and then at certain points, the speed boost will literally get electrified from, like, the lightning. That is so freaking cool. I absolutely love that. And then, like, at the end, you're, like, driving on, like, this huge vine. You have this, like, little leaf shortcut that you can take. This track is just freaking awesome. While I don't think, like, the theme itself is the most interesting, it does so much with it. Like, just the fact that you go into a thunderstorm is extremely creative. It flows so well, and this is just one of those tracks that is so good to learn and get good at and try to, like, master the drifting and find the best route, because there's just so much to it. It's a very tightly packed track. I really like it a lot for that reason. I think it loses some points just because, like, the theme itself isn't super interesting, but it's still a fantastic track. Man, this honestly might be... Ooh, I think we're actually going to put it slightly above Electrodrome. Well, I don't know. Electrodrome? Okay, maybe not. You know what? We're actually going to put it below. Oh, man, I'm going to be spending a lot of time just moving these around, aren't I? I can already tell. Now, next we have Bone Dry Dunes, and I find the name to be a little bit ironic because this is definitely the driest track, at least in the base version of Mario Kart 8. Now, when we get to the tour tracks, it'll be a different story, but when it comes to the base game, this is one of those tracks that just doesn't really do anything all that interesting. Now, it is loosely based around dry bones. I guess you'll find like dry piranha plants, and you will find some dry bones like walking around at the end as obstacles, but the track itself is just kind of uninteresting. I think the issue really is the theme. Like, I do think that the level design is pretty solid. Like, I do like that the level is actually fairly difficult, especially once you get to the halfway point, because the track splits up, so you have to decide which route to take, and then the way that your glider moves, you have to be really careful with trying to navigate your way around to basically go as fast as possible. But even still, like, the track itself, it just isn't all that exciting. Like, again, the level design is the only thing that's kind of saving it, I guess. But the theme really kills it, and the music is not that exciting either. Never really been much of a fan of the music for Bone Dry Dunes. Oh, it's a very unremarkable track. I don't necessarily think it's a bad track. I think just because the track design is fairly intricate, I think this is probably a C tier or a D tier. Probably I'm going to throw it in the C. I think it'll end up being a low C by the time we're done. Maybe it'll make its way into D tier, but I guess we'll see when we get there. And now we move on to one of only 2 Bowser Castle tracks. It's actually pretty crazy with all the retro tracks that got added into this game. Only 1 additional Bowser Castle was made, which was, I think, SNES Bowser Castle 2 or 3. We'll get to that like an hour, 2 hours into this video. But let's talk about the Mario Kart 8's version, because this track absolutely slaps. Wow, this is one of the best Bowser Castles of all time. Now, I personally still like the Mario Kart Wii one a little bit more, but this one has so much to offer. I mean, first off, the music. It's got it's got lead guitar in it as like the main portion of the song. Oh my god, it just works so well. I hope that every single Bowser's Castle track, well, in Mario Kart World it's like this too, but I hope the music for every Bowser's Castle track in the future, it just sounds like a rock song or a metal song. It just works perfectly. And then for the track itself, you know, it's Bowser's Castle. We're getting near the end of, I guess, the quote-unquote, like, the Grand Prix, the game. And so, yeah, you'd expect the track to get more difficult. It has tons of very, very sharp corners to make. There's, like, big spike balls and fire bars to avoid. And then around the halfway point, got this huge Bowser that's just punching the crap out of the road, causing it to wave. So you have to make this decision of which route you want to take without getting clobbered by Bowser's fist, while also taking advantage of little trick boost from the wavy road itself. I just think that is so cool. Such a great, great idea. Now, while it is really, really cool, I do still think Mario Kart Wii's is better. I think it's just a little bit more interesting. While this one, it does have a few really like notable / unique elements, but a lot of this stuff is like, well, you kind of see this in every Bowser's Castle. Sharp turns, lots of corners, fire, yada, yada, yada. But I still think it's worthy of at least like an A tier, maybe a very low S tier. Oh man, I don't know. This might be, I think I'm actually going to throw this in A tier. This is a very, very high A tier. Now, just because it's not an S tier doesn't make it a bad track. It just means that I think there's just a couple of things that it doesn't do to really like stand out. And it's just, you're not going to get every single track to be standout unique. It's just not going to happen. There's always going to be favorites or least favorites. And I think this one, it is a great Bowser's Castle, which is why it belongs in high A tier. But it's just not like the most noteworthy Bowser's Castle of all time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And now we move on to Rainbow Road. Now, I still remember the day when Nintendo announced Mario Kart 8 on Wii U. I was watching the reveal trailer, and I said something along the lines of, oh man, the Rainbow Road's going to be crazy after seeing the gravity mechanic. And, yeah, I don't know if I'd say that. It's fine. Like, it's just kind of fine. Like, I don't mind this Rainbow Road, but it's not one that I, like, actively think about playing. The only thing that's really unique about it is the fact that it does split into multiple roads in the second half. And what's really cool about, like, a lot of tracks do this, but what's interesting about this version in particular is that you can very easily just jump from path to path and like swap as you're going. And I don't know if I necessarily say it's a faster way to go, but it is something you can do. And the fact that it like takes place on a space station, I guess the space station theme is kind of cool. But I think what really sets the tone of this Rainbow Road down a few notches is just the track design. Like, yes, it is technically kind of hard. The curves, a lot of the turns are very, very sharp. So especially if you're playing this in 200cc, this track can be pretty tough at 200cc. But like, at the same time, you know, it's like we're comparing this Rainbow Road to all the other ones before this. And I'm just thinking back to like Mario Kart 7's where you're flying through freaking space. And then Mario Kart Wii, like the track design in that game in particular is way more intricate than in this game. Like, yes, you have the splitting paths, you have the space station theme. There's a couple things that are unique about it, but it just doesn't really take that extra step in terms of the track design itself. And this is thankfully remedied. We have plenty more Rainbow Roads that we're going to get into as we go through more of this video. But for this one in particular, I think it's a solid Rainbow Road. It is still fun to play on. It's just not the best. And it kind of sucks because it's like, how are they going to top Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road? Even like, I love Mario Kart World's Rainbow Road to death. I think that one's awesome. I don't think it's better than Mario Kart 7's. Like, the way that they did it in 7, it's going to be almost impossible for Nintendo to ever top that one, at least in my opinion. But let's figure out where the heck we're going to rank this. I think this probably belongs, this is like a B tier or like a high C. I feel bad putting this in C tier. Like a high C? I mean, I don't know, maybe. Maybe we do put this in high C. You know what? No. Let's not do that. I feel kind of bad. Let's just throw it in like a low B. I think a low B is okay. Okay, and now we're going to moving on to our first retro track, which is Mario Kart Wii's Moo Moo Meadows. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the track. I like that it takes place on a farm. I love the cows. It's all good and dandy. But at the same time, it's pretty basic. There's not much to it. Now, yes, I know how iconic the track is. I know people love the track. It's made memes in the past from the Moo Moo Meadows icon. I remember that was a weird meme from like a year or two ago. It didn't last very long, but I do remember seeing it everywhere for a brief moment. It's, you know, it is classic. I do like the ending. The ending has like a couple of like different routes you can take. It's got some speed boosts. Or not speed. It's got some like speed ramps you can take. But overall, it's kind of just like a big old oval. And the only thing that ever changes is on the second and third lap, the cows start to walk across the road around the beginning. So you have to avoid them. But outside of that, there's really not much to Moo Moo Meadows. Now, this might feel a little sacrilege, but I'm actually going to throw this in D tier. Just because I think the track or the level design is pretty boring. And honestly, like, the theme isn't that exciting either. Now, it is funny that the cow is playable in Mario Kart World. That's just because of the initial shock of that happening. But I think just in reality, this is probably as good as it should ever get for this track, is around like a high D. Maybe I'll move it to C later on, but for now, I'm pretty happy with a high D tier. Now, I already said that this was going to be happening, but here is our second Mario Circuit, and this one comes from Mario Kart Super Circuit. Now, I like Super Circuit. I think it's a fine enough game. It is really cool to see this track get a remake to this scale, but the only thing that it really does differently is that around the middle way point, the track goes into gravity mode. You're kind of driving on like a 90-degree angle, but not necessarily. And it's held up. What's interesting is that track piece is held up by the Ultra Hand toy. I think it's what it's called. It's a really old Nintendo toy from like the 70s or 80s or something. But like, that's really all there is to it. I mean, this track tries to pay homage as much as possible, with all the barriers being the same red, green, blue, and yellow colors, all being the same colors and kind of being in the same spots. But beyond that, there's really not too much to say about this Mario Circuit. I actually think this is probably worse than the Wii U one, just because it's just not as interesting. And I understand the point is to pay homage and pay respect to the Game Boy Advance Classic, but even still, it's just not the most interesting to play on. All right, and now we're going to move on to DS Cheap Cheap Beach. Now, for this one, it is your typical beach level. It doesn't really have anything too crazy when it comes to the gravity mechanic, which is fine. That's another thing that's really fascinating about this game is that when it had the Booster Course Pass coming out, a lot of tracks just didn't even bother with the gravity itself. But anyway, when it comes to Cheap Cheap Beach, it is your typical beach track. You've got a couple of ramps. You can drive into the water at some points. The music is very relaxing. I've always loved the music in the track. It's just has a very soothing tone to it. And what I also like is the end spices things up a little bit. You drive through a little bit of a tropical rainforest kind of area. Now, there's not any trees in the way or anything, but they are surrounding you. So I guess that's kind of interesting, but I think at the same time, it really is just a beach stage. It doesn't really do anything all that crazy. And I think for that reason, this is probably going to end up being another D tier. I think it's a little more interesting than the Mario Circuit tracks as well as Mario Kart Stadium. When it comes to Moo Moo Meadows, I think I'm actually going to put it maybe a little bit below Moo Moo Meadows. Now, let's move on to a fairly iconic track from Mario Kart 64, and that is Toad's Turnpike. Now, this track is very interesting to me because it does so much to change basically everything about the original version of Toad's Turnpike. Because if you've played Mario Kart 64, you know how difficult that track can be, especially on mirror mode where the cars drive towards you and you can just get stun locked for 3 years if you get unlucky. This track is completely widened up. The roads are much wider. You got cars that you can trick off of. There's surfboards on some of the cars. You can trick off of them. You can do little glide ramps off of some of the trucks. And you can even drive on the wall in a couple of areas. So there's so many opportunities to avoid the main obstacle of what used to be Toad's Turnpike, which is all the vehicles. And while I definitely understand this, I do think maybe Nintendo went a little bit too far in terms of toning down the difficulty, because that's what kind of made the original one so special, was the fact that yes, it was honestly a little bit difficult to avoid the cars, and you get punished pretty badly. You can still run into cars now, but it's really not a big deal. You'll be fine. There's not much to worry about. But I do feel they did kind of butcher the track. I do still like it. I love the remix. The music's great. But I don't know if I can really rank it too high. Now, maybe my opinion's changed on this one over time. I remember when this game originally came out, I loved this remake for basically all the reasons that I've listed. But really thinking about it now and spending even more time with the game as the years have gone on, this track's just kind of boring. It kind of just is. It's a little bit tedious because the roads are just so wide. There's just not much you really have to worry about in general with this one. But I do like the theme. I mean, it is another city track technically, but it takes place at nighttime. It does have a lot of cars, so I guess the theme is okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna throw it right here. We'll put it in between Moo Moo Meadows and Cheap Cheap Beach. I don't know what anyone thinks about that. Guess we'll find out eventually. Now we have a double dash track. We've got good old Dry Desert. So we have another desert themed track. And this one honestly doesn't do too much to change it from the GameCube Classic. The track design feels relatively the same in terms of how sharp the turns feel. The big quicksand thing in the, I guess the big quicksand hole in the middle it works the same as well. Although if you do get sucked in, a piranha plant does not eat you. You just get saved by Lekitsu. The only big difference here is at the end, the water's turned into this big oasis, which I actually think is a really cool thing to bring to the table. That's what I really like about this game with the retro tracks, is it does such a great job at introducing something brand new to a retro track, but also making it feel like the old one. I think it did a great job with that. But with that said, I don't think it's super interesting. Again, the only part that I kind of like is the Oasis section. But outside of that, it is kind of just another desert track. And we already have a handful of those in the game. So, it's It's just kind of fine. I'm trying to decide where exactly I'm going to put it. I actually think I'm going to group it near Bone Dry Dunes. Now, that's actually kind of a hard one. Which one's better or worse, Bone Dry Dunes or Dry Desert? This is actually kind of a hard decision because they have a lot of the same qualities, but Bone Dry Dunes does have more interesting track design, whereas Dry Desert, it doesn't really do much outside of like add an oasis. And the oasis is cool, but I think I'd probably rather play Bone Dry Dunes in terms of like if I want to have a little bit more of a challenge while I'm playing, yeah, I'm going to pick Bone Dry Dunes over Dry Desert. So even though I'm much more nostalgic for Dry Desert, I think it probably belongs to go right underneath it. And now we move on to our first Super Mario Kart track, and that is Donut Plains 3. And this track is boring. It does not try to do anything all that different from the SNES game in terms of the track design. It is pretty much the same outside of the fact that it feels much bigger, but every track in this game feels bigger compared to Super Mario Kart. But I digress. The only real difference is there's a couple of sections where you'll like dip into the water, or you can dip into the water if you want. And that's really about it. I will say that it does look great. I've bought like every track in the game. All the base tracks in this game look incredible. I really like seeing the dirt road get like all muddy and have like little tiny puddles around the end. I just think that little detail is so cool after spending all this time like driving through all this like rough terrain and getting into the water. Like, yeah, your wheels are going to pick up all this like dirt and mud and stuff. So it makes sense that the road itself would change a little bit and even get a little bit more slippery. I think that little attention to detail is awesome. But like at the same time, it's just Donut Plains 3. Who cares? I don't know anyone that cares about the track personally. It's one of, gosh, do I want to put it in F tier? This might be an F tier. Oh, this might be an F tier. Feel bad for this, for honestly putting anything in F tier, because I really do like Mario Kart 8 a lot, but this is just not an exciting track at all. And I guess like you could argue like, sure, like the track design is more interesting than the Mario Circuit ones, but like the theme is just so bland. It doesn't do anything with the gravity whatsoever. Like it just looks nice. It's got a fresh coat of paint. That's it. And now we have Royal Raceway from Mario Kart 64. Now, I absolutely love this track in the original game. It's so cool that they remade it, and I think they did a pretty good job with it. The only problem with Royal Raceway in this game is the fact that you can't drive to Peach's Castle like you could do in Mario Kart 64. And everyone's talked about that, but like, that really was a special part of Mario Kart 64, such a fun little Easter egg. And like, yeah, it makes sense they're not going to do that in a game this modern, but it would have been cool if you could still do it. But regardless, I do really like that they went with a more like cherry blossom tree. There's like cherry blossom trees all over the place instead of just like regular trees. And then it just kind of coats the road in these like really pretty pink petals. I think that's really great. And something else I like about it too is that this track felt a little bit janky at the end when it came to the turns at the end in Mario Kart 64, and this track kind of smooths that out a bit while still retaining that same sense of difficulty. Whereas in like, you really do need to nail the drifts or you're going to go off course. You might run into some problems. So yeah, I think Royal Raceway is pretty good. Now, it's not the most interesting theme of all time, but it is really fun to play. I do enjoy playing on it, and I do like the huge like jump that you do near the end as well. That's always kind of fun. And I'm just trying to figure out where the heck I'm going to put this. This is probably a B tier. And I guess we'll put it right below Rainbow Road. I think Rainbow Road is still a little bit more interesting than this one, but like not by too much. I think the only reason Rainbow Road goes over it is just because like the theme is more interesting than this game. And now we have, I think actually our first Mario Kart 7 track, which is DK Jungle. Now, this one really doesn't do very much to differentiate itself from Mario Kart 7, which makes sense. Like, this game came out very close to 7. I think 7 came out 2011. And this game 2014, so this only had a 3-year development cycle. So all of the, or the vast majority of the 3DS tracks are not all that different. They're very, very similar in a lot of ways. But yeah, DK Jungle is pretty good. It takes a lot of the ideas from like Donkey Kong Country Returns, some of the characters and the elements and whatnot, and kind of incorporates it into the stage. You got a big spinning golden banana before taking off and doing this huge like glider ramp section. That's kind of cool. But yeah, outside of that, you're kind of just driving through a big old jungle, and it's fun. It's not the most exciting track of all time, but it is a very fun one. So I think I'll probably throw this. Oh, this is hard. I'm debating on either a B tier or a C tier. I think just because there's like so much attention to detail with the Donkey Kong Country Return stuff. There's also even like those Tiki Head enemies as well, now that I think about it. This is probably going to be a B tier. I think we will throw it. You know what? Let's put it, oh gosh. You know what? Screw it. We're going to put it right above Rainbow Road. Let's just go for that. And up next, we have DS Wario Stadium. Now, this is one of those tracks I feel like nobody really wanted a remake of. Everyone's like, why would you remake this? This is just your typical stadium track. But Nintendo got a little bit wild with this one. I think they did a pretty good job with Wario Stadium. I would say for the most part, the track design is basically the same as the DS counterpart, but that's not a bad thing. The track design in the original DS game is very, very fun. It's frantic. Things are constantly changing. There's tons of ramps to take. And this game adds in all these like little speed boosts on top of the ramps. And then around the 3/4 point, you got this completely different like girder section. And it goes into anti-gravity. And then after that, you got even more ramps. You shoot into the water for a second. And then you like fly out of the water. Like it's kind of nuts how much the track just completely evolves. Like, and I think that's kind of what the developers were going for. They wanted people to kind of be fooled by what this track is really all about. Like, oh yeah, this is just the same thing as your typical stadium track. Oh my god, hold on. We're going to anti-gravity, we're on girders, we're in the water. Like it just kind of changes out of nowhere. And that's what I really like about it. It had that element of surprise. And I think like the track design is also just really, really solid. I really enjoy doing ramp jumps. I think those are very gratifying. So I think this is probably another B tier. It's probably going to be, ooh, I don't know. Well, it's going to be better than Royal, Rainbow, DK, Sweet, maybe Sweet Sweet. Yeah, it's going to be, you know what? I think I'm actually going to throw it at the top of B tier. Yeah, I think the top of B tier. Let's go ahead and roll with that. But now we have Sherbet Land. And this is a track that I honestly hated in Double Dash. I thought it was just way too slippery and super, super annoying to get through. But what I really like about this one is that it really evolves it and it takes it in directions you wouldn't expect. Because what made the track kind of annoying in the original game were the big like ice holes that you'd have to worry about. And if you fall into them, you just kind of die. But in this game, there's just an entire track hiding inside the water that you can just drive through. That is so cool. That is so freaking cool. I absolutely love that they did this. And not only did they do that, but like the design of the track itself feels a little bit more smoothed out. It feels more fluid. Just everything about it is just so much better than the Double Dash version. Like, this makes me actually like Sherbet Land a lot. I think just because it took the liberty of creating brand new tracks inside of the track itself. It managed to do that successfully and make it flow so well and so fluidly. I think this makes this a very high contender. Now, I wouldn't say it's like an S tier necessarily. I'm not a super big fan of ice tracks in general, but this one just does such a great job. I almost want to throw this in. You know what? Actually, I'm going to throw Wario Stadium in low A and Sherbet Land in high B. We're going to swap those around. Okay, next we have 3DS Music Park. This is one of my all-time favorite Mario Kart tracks. You know, I do like music. I have played drums on and off for most of my life. This track is just perfect. Like the fact that you can do turns, hit the piano and the xylophone, and then like the sounds of those instruments are playing as you're driving across them. Like, that will never not be satisfying. And you can like bounce off drums. You got head bopping piranha plants. The music in the track is absolutely slamming. It's incredible. I freaking love it. And you know what's really funny too about this is that this is probably the one track when going from Mario Kart 7 to 8 that has the least amount of changes. And I remember people were critiquing this track for that reason, saying like, oh, this is like literally the same thing from 7. Almost nothing's changed. But It doesn't need any changes. This track slaps. It's so good. Like, not only does it have all those really exciting elements with the instruments and whatnot, but the actual track design is just fun. It's intricate. There's a lot to it. Things are constantly changing. It's freaking awesome. There's little shortcuts you can take. Some of them are pretty tough, too, on top of that. Yeah, this track slaps. This is... Ooh, man. Ooh, I think... Okay, I don't know. I actually don't know the general opinion on Music Park. I know people like it. I don't know if it's like an all-time favorite. But for me, this is one of my favorites for sure. I freaking love Music Park. It's so good. Yeah, I think we're going to put it right underneath Mount Wario. Okay, now we have N64 Yoshi Valley. This is one of those tracks where you wouldn't think Nintendo would ever want to revisit it just because it's such a weird concept. Because, like, back in the day, the game couldn't even tell who was in first place until you, like, finished, like, the laps themselves. And having a track with this many routes and seeing it actually get recreated like this is very, very cool. I'm so glad that they actually did this. It just felt like one of those, like, out there, obscure kind of concepts that would just never be revisited. So I love that we're seeing this again. And yeah, it's just really fun. The music has this like good old country kind of like sound to it. And while I'm not a fan of country music at all, it does fit with the track perfectly. And yeah, I just think the fact that it has so many different routes, it's got that huge ass Yoshi egg. That's kind of cool at the very end. I think this is probably, it's not an S tier, but it is definitely in the like A to B tier range. The only reason I'm thinking about putting it in B tier is because the theme isn't super interesting. You are just in a valley, but just the vast amount of like routes that you can take, the vast amount of paths you can take, I think it's kind of cool. But now that I'm thinking about it more, there's really only a couple of paths that are like the fastest. A lot of them are way slower. And the fact that they aren't balanced, maybe that's kind of a negative. I don't know. It's hard to say. I still like the track though. I still think it's fun. You know, maybe I am going to put this in B tier, but I think I'm going to have it relatively high. This probably belongs like, ooh, I don't know. You know what? Let's actually put it at the very top of B tier for now. I think this will be okay. And up next, we have another classic, Tick-Tock Clock from Mario Kart DS. Ah, man, I absolutely adore this. It's one of my favorite tracks from Mario Kart DS, and it is one of the best ones in this game, too. Now, once again, they don't really change too much about the track itself. It's basically the same thing, where you've got a ton of, like, random gears that'll, like, twist and like, rotate and, like, go from clockwise, counterclockwise. Just the fact that, like, everything is based around parts of an actual clock, and they integrate that into the track itself is so cool. And then, like, the song itself has this weird, like, mystical kind of tone to it. It has this weird energy that you don't really hear in most Mario Kart tracks. There's something, it just sounds a little odd. I guess that's the best way to put it. It has this weird, like, it just has a very odd kind of, like, beat to it. And it just fits perfectly. I don't know if I could put this, I don't know, I want to put this in S tier. I freaking love the track. The theme is so fun. It's done so well. Gosh, maybe this is an S tier. You know what? It probably should be, because I do think the actual layout is vast enough and complex enough that it probably belongs in S tier. Like, it does require a decent amount of skill to get good at this track. You really have to be pretty good with the drifting, and there are a lot of, like, little sneaky shortcuts you can take on top of that. So this is probably, ooh, you know what? We're going to throw it right here. We're going to put it right below Shy Guy Falls. We'll see how that goes. I'm kind of feeling that one right now. And now we have Mario Kart 7's Piranha Plant Slide. And this is one from obviously the 3DS game. What I really like about this one is that it kind of takes the idea of like 1-2 from the original Mario Bros. And just goes completely wild with it. Like, you immediately just dive into this big like pipe. You're underground, and there's just like this rushing water that's coming your way. Tons of really sharp turns. You got piranha plants trying to stop you. You got little pipes you can trick off of. And then near the end, you like dip into like this water segment, and it has like this like really crazy turn, and there's like pockets of air that you can use to either push yourself around or push yourself up into the air. And then at the end, you just like fly back into like just regular land. And the shot just feels so nice, because you just kind of get like this like weird, like satisfying feeling of being almost like entrenched underground. Then all of a sudden you're escaping to get fresh air again. That's kind of the feeling that it gives off. And not only that, the track design is really, really fun. It's fast. There's a lot to it. And I think this is, man, this has to be an A tier or maybe an S. Maybe it's an S. I'm trying to debate. I don't know if I could put it in S, because I'm trying to leave S for either incredibly great design or for just really unique themes / all that good fun stuff. This is probably, maybe this is an A tier. I'm thinking we're going to throw this, ooh, this is hard to say. Maybe it's her fur. I don't know why I'm thinking of that SpongeBob quote. You know what? Let's actually throw it right here. Boom. Right. Yeah, we're going to do Piranha Plant Slide, then Bowser's Castle. Yeah. You know what? Top of A tier. I'm happy with that. Let's rock with that. Okay, now we have Mario Kart Wii's Grumble Volcano. This is another iconic track from Mario Kart Wii. You basically just drive through a huge volcano. And what's so cool about this track is that every single lap, more and more of the terrain is falling apart around you. And I love seeing tracks do stuff like that, where like just little bits and pieces of it change to make it feel more alive. And being in a volcano setting, it's perfect for this game. Like, it's just really, it's a really, really great idea, and it's executed so well here. And even in like the first lap, you can see parts of the terrain like grumbling and starting to like come apart. And on top of that, you have like fireballs and like meteors to avoid coming, or not meteors. You know what I'm saying? They got like big chunks of rock that are erupting from the volcano itself. And what's also really cool is just like the volcano having those like question mark blocks that are kind of like built into the volcano itself. It makes it feel more Mario-ified, which is really interesting. But yeah, Grumble Volcano, a really, really great one. Is it as good as Bowser's Castle? Because right now, that's kind of what I'm pairing it up against. And I think I have to, just because, like, obviously they're like the same themes. In terms of track complexity, they are fairly similar. Grumble Volcano is one of the harder tracks. I wouldn't say it's as difficult as Bowser's Castle, but the theming is very similar. The concepts are similar. I don't know which one I like more, though. This is actually a really, really hard... Ooh, man, this is almost like a coin flip. Jeez, I actually don't know. You know what? Okay. I think I'm going to put it below. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's where I'm going to put it just for now. Well, we have once again returned to the Rainbow Roads. This time we have the N64 remake of Rainbow Road. And this is probably one of the most altered and different remakes out of all the retro tracks in this game. There might be a couple others. Well, there are a couple others that are very, very different, but this is like one of the first ones where you're just like, oh my god, this really feels like its own thing. And that's because it tries to address the problem that the original game had, where the original track was way too long. Like, it would take like on average 5 to 6 minutes to complete all 3 laps in Mario Kart 64. Whereas in this game, it's kind of too short. Like, it's just a little bit too short. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I do wish the track was a little bit longer. I just really appreciate that they like really tried to address that. I think that's so cool. And they also just tried to make it so different while kind of retaining that same energy. Like, obviously it has the same music, but it has an absolutely exquisite remix that you listen to it, you can't help but just put a smile on your face. It is just such a happy, joyous remix of the song. The road itself looks absolutely incredible. It still has chain chomps, but now they kind of like bounce around the track and they make the track wavy. So they kind of create like a double obstacle. And then you have like this new train that like throws coins onto the road. There's a huge city sprawling right underneath you that you can see in a lot of detail. You still have the character silhouettes that are now created through fireworks instead of just kind of like being stuck in the sky. It does everything to try to feel like the original, although it really feels nothing like it because the level design is just so different. But I freaking love it, man. I love this track. It's awesome. But I think just because it is so much shorter, I don't know. I think just the fact that it just feels like it's over too soon. I think that's really my only problem with it. But man, I really, really do like it a lot. I like it more than, obviously I like it more than the Wii U Rainbow Road. I don't know if I'd say I like it that much more though. Maybe, I mean, it's hard to say. Like some days I prefer the Wii U one because at least that track design is more difficult. Whereas in this track, it's not as hard. But you know what? Today, I'm feeling like putting it above, but probably not too much. I think we're going to throw it. Where are we going to throw this? We're going to put it... You know what? It's going to go... I'm just going to put it right there. Not even thinking about it. That's just pure vibes. That's just where it's going. And now we move on to Yoshi's Circuit. This was the first DLC pack, or the first track, I guess, from the Wii U version. And I freaking love this track. It doesn't do anything with the gravity. And it doesn't need to, though. It just needed to look really, really gorgeous, and it is fantastic. It, of course, still has that shortcut at the beginning, but now you drive through like a little waterfall, which is a fun addition. The remix of music is fantastic. And yeah, it is just Yoshi's Circuit again, which was a genuinely really, really fun track in Double Dash. So seeing it get a remake in this game is just awesome. So yeah, really big fan of it. I guess I don't have too much to say about it because it didn't really do anything too crazy different from the original game. It's just a really fun track to play on. But I guess like the theme isn't super exciting. Like it's kind of just like grassy plains / mountainous. It's not even really mountains per se. It's more just like we're on an island. It's kind of like an island, I guess you could say. So I guess just like it should be a B tier one because it's still very fun to play on. You know what we're gonna do? I have an idea. This might be insane, but you know what? We're gonna put this right above Yoshi Valley. Yep, that's right. We're putting it above Yoshi Valley. Now we have one of, honestly, the strangest inclusions ever for a Mario Kart track, and that is Excite Bike Arena. Now, of course, Excite Bike was a fairly big game back in the 80s, but I don't know anyone that plays Excite Bike now. It's such an old franchise. I don't even know if it got a sequel on like the Super Nintendo. I don't think it did. I think it was just a popular game back in the day. But seeing this get a return is very interesting, and not only that, just the fact that it exists at all, but the track itself does something that none of the other tracks really do, and that's the fact that the layout of the track changes each time that you play it. It's not consistent every single time, which I find to be very, very fascinating. And it does, you know, that is similar to like how it was, or I guess probably the reason they did that is because there were different design tracks in the NES game too. So kind of seeing that idea brought to this is cool. And it is fun to do tricks off of all the ramps. I do like trick ramping and jumping and all that stuff, but also this track's kind of boring. It's weird because like it is satisfying to do like a billion tricks, but at the same time that's like basically all you're doing. Like the excitement behind a ramp is building up the speed to do it and the anticipation of building up to that as well. But here you kind of just do tricks the whole time, and it loses a little bit of its luster for that reason. So I think this is an F tier. I don't know if it's below or above Donut Plains 3. I think just for the fact that the track design changes every time, we will put it above for that reason. But like, again, it is an oval where you do a bunch of tricks, and that's basically it. And now we've got a track that is a little bit more original, and that is Dragon Driftway, which is loosely based around the Gobblegut fight from Mario Galaxy 2. I mean, you immediately drive into Gobblegut's mouth, and you're basically surrounded by murals, and you're on this super wavy road, which I guess it kind of resembles his body, I suppose. So yeah, this is kind of like a more like Chinese / Asian themed track, I suppose, is what they were kind of going for here. And it's pretty cool. I don't think it's the craziest track of all time, but I do like the idea of designing a track around a boss specifically. Like that's such an interesting concept. I guess it kind of pays like the same homage of like making Yoshi's Circuit, where it's literally just the outline of Yoshi. Here, it's not the outline of Gobblegut, but it's the idea of him like wriggling around in the air, and you're kind of like driving, I guess, like through his body. It's a cool idea, but it's not necessarily a track I'm always super excited to go back to, because a lot of it, it's actually in a weird way kind of reminds me of like, maybe a weird comparison, but Water Park, like, because Water Park is also fun to play on, but it also just has like a lot of long turns, and that is kind of what this track is. Lots and lots of long turns. And yeah, there is more variety than that, but it mostly is just like you're just drifting left and right for most of it. There's very few like straightaways or ramps and anything like that. There's not much variety in terms of level design itself, outside of being a little bit wriggly. So, you know what? I think this is probably, I don't know if I want to say, I think a C tier is probably too harsh. You know what? Let's actually throw this in, let's throw this in B tier. I'm thinking, oh, you know, ooh, this is actually kind of similar to Rainbow Road, too, from the Wii U. I think we're going to put it a little bit below that Rainbow Road. I think that'll end up working. And next we have Mute City from F-Zero. Now, this is one of the best Mario Kart tracks of all time. It was genius to include F-Zero tracks into the DLC. I'm so glad Nintendo did it. I wish they would do that again. Hopefully they'll do that in Mario Kart World. We'll see maybe this or Big Blue come back. That would be awesome. But I think this is just so much fun. Like, this with like 200cc just feels so exhilarating. Oh my god, it just feels awesome to just constantly get rewarded getting blasted with speed boosts and whatnot. It even has the Captain Falcon show me your moves slogan from Smash Bros at the end. It's a fun little Easter egg. And just like the track itself is just absolutely gorgeous. Like, the track is just like floating in this massive like futuristic city. Like this big utopian, basically. It's just so damn cool. And my favorite part of the track is with F-Zero, to charge up your boost, you have to go through like these little like colored pads. And in this game, those same colored, like the pink and purple / blue pads are included here, but you charge up coins. Like that is just so smart. The ingenuity of that. Whoever had the foresight of doing that, bravo to you, my good man. Whoever that was. Yeah, this is absolutely an S tier. It is a hell of a banger. Now, I don't know exactly where I'm going to put this. I think this probably belongs... This belongs near the top. I think we're going to throw this... Actually, let's put it right below Shy Guy... Well, actually, no. You know what? We're going to put it right above Shy Guy Falls. I think that's probably a pretty good spot for that one. And now we have Mario Kart Wii's Wario's Gold Mine. This is a really fun track in Mario Kart Wii. It's your typical, oh, you're out like in a mountain / valley, but then you go into like a cave, and you got all these like mine carts and stuff you had to avoid. Whereas in this game, the whole minecart section takes place in anti-gravity, so you actually want to hit the minecarts. I love that twist that they did, while making the track feel basically the same. I wouldn't say that the like super steep hills feel as steep in this track, but it still kind of retains that same feeling in general. But yeah, this is just a really, really well done remake. Again, just the fact that you can hit the minecarts for speed is such a fun idea. I really like that a lot. And it still has, of course, the split path at the end too that you can take. It's just a great track. It has very, very like exciting music. It's very like fast-paced music. It's very rapid and almost like intense in a weird way. It just almost it feels like a banjo like band off or something. Like you got two dudes on banjos just like trying to like out solo each other. That's what the music kind of sounds like to me. Just like two dudes doing that. I guess like the theme itself isn't the most interesting, but the level design is great. It's pretty good. Now, is it an A tier or a B tier? This is kind of like my conundrum for like the majority of these tracks. A tier or B tier? I think I'm gonna have to throw this in A tier. I would say it's better than Wario Stadium. Let me see, Toad Harbor. Yeah, probably better than Toad Harbor. You know what? Let's throw it right here, right below Grumble Volcano. All right, and now we have SNES Rainbow Road, which I think makes this the most recreated Mario Kart track of all time, because it's in Super Mario Kart, it's in Super Circuit, It's in 7, it's in 8, and it's in Tour multiple times. So yeah, I think this is the most recreated one. And it's very basic. You just kind of drive on a straight path. The chain chomps, the thwomps will make the road bumpy when they crush them. So there is that for variety. But outside of that, it is just plain old Rainbow Road, no guardrails, no BS. You're just going from start to finish. It looks great. I'll give it that. The road itself looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the rainbow pattern that it has, and I really like the hills in the background as well, since they're constantly like illuminating different colors. I think the hills look really, really nice. It adds this interesting, like, I don't know exactly what the word is that I'm looking for. I want to say like mystique of like, where exactly is this road anyway? Like, it's clearly in the sky, but like it feels like it's in this location that is completely vacant and like no one actually lives here. It feels very isolated from everything else. But yeah, with that said, the track's just kind of fine. What made this one unique in the original game was that it was so hard, but the road is so wide now. The track itself really isn't that difficult. It's a gorgeous track, don't get me wrong, but it's just not that interesting to play. Like, this version, I prefer playing this version over the SNES one, but it's just not that interesting, just in general. So, man, I feel kind of weird doing this, but you know what? It's going to go low D tier. Yeah, I think this is low D. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's a little too harsh. Maybe it's not. You know what? Screw it. That's where it's going. It's in low D tier. That's what we're doing. We've got a little bit of a weird one this time. This is Ice Ice Outpost. It is just a generic ice/snow level. Well, it's weird because, like, there's not really ice on the road outside of a couple instances. But the only interesting, or I guess, like, unique thing about the track is that the entire thing is split up between a green and yellow road, and you can kind of interchange them on the fly, as well as take a couple of shortcuts around the halfway and even, like, endpoint. And I think, like, the track itself is just kind of boring. Like, the theme, there's really not much of a theme outside of, like, icy roads. That is the theme. But beyond that, it's just kind of like, it's whatever. I mean, I don't hate it, but it's not a track that I necessarily get excited to play. Like I said, I like the idea of the road splitting for the vast majority of the track, but beyond that, there's really not much to it. So I think this probably, I don't know, this might be an F tier. Now that I'm like really looking at all these at once, it might be an F tier. I don't know if I'd put it. You know what? Let's ooh, it feels weird to put it there. Actually, hold on. We're gonna put it at the top of F tier, and then Excitebike can be right below it. Yeah, let's go for that. And now we have Hyrule Castle, which of course has a lot of elements from Zelda. It's got the Bokoblins, you've got rupees replaced with coins. You go into Hyrule Castle. You can hit the 3 Triforces. It like opens up the path, opens up the middle for a shortcut. There's a lot of really cool stuff about the track. I would say the track design is fairly basic, and it's not really all that crazy. But just the fact that you can play a Zelda track in Mario Kart is still fairly novel. Like, this is the only track to this day where you can officially play something like this. And it looks great. I love the idea of it kind of introducing like a tiny little puzzle. I think that is very, very fun. And again, replacing the Piranha Plants with the Bokoblins, very, very smart. I just don't think like the level design is super interesting, but it is still a very, very solid track overall. And it is nice to see the attention to detail with all the little Zelda elements that they ended up hiding in. I think they probably could have gone a little bit farther with it, with like more Zelda enemies or like Zelda NPCs. Like just seeing like Tingle somewhere or something would have been nice, or like maybe like some villagers from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But like, beggars can't be choosers. This track is pretty sweet. Now to just decide where it's going to go. This might be I think this is going to be a low A tier. I think a low A tier is perfectly fine. Okay, and now we have good old Baby Park from the GameCube. And it's the most basic track of all time. You're just going in a quick little loop. It's 7 laps long, which is kind of unique. There's a lot going on in the background. All sorts of like roller coaster shenanigans. And yeah, it's a cool track. The thing is what made this one so crazy in Double Dash was just this massive barrage of items getting flung all over the course. And that's what made it such a chaotic experience in Double Dash, and why people loved it so much. Then you got the Mario Kart DS remake, which was only 5 laps long, no item chaos. And then you got this remake, where there's not really item chaos with like Bowser shells and stuff flying around, but it still has that weird zany action to it, just because the stage itself is so small. And I do think with the right item settings, you can make this an extremely chaotic track. But I don't know. I mean, like, the level design, like, obviously it's supposed to be incredibly small and basic. That's the entire point. I just think the attention to detail and just with how much stuff is going on in the background makes this a decent track. And I maybe people really like this one a lot. I kind of like this one, but more so in a way where, like, I kind of only want to play it with, like, friends. That's really about it. Like, oh, let's have like a fun, silly time with friends. Not like, oh yeah, I actually want to play on this track. So maybe this is like, I think, well, an F tier is too harsh. It's not an F. It's probably not a D, but maybe a C. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is a D tier. You know what? No, let's throw it in C tier. I do think it has its charm. I appreciate all the details in the background and whatnot, but yeah, I think a C tier is totally fine for this. Alright, so next up we have Game Boy Advance's Cheeseland, and this is probably the first Super Circuit track to get a really, really big rehaul, just in general. I mean, you look at this track, it really looks absolutely nothing like the original. It actually looks like cheese more so than just like a yellow road. It looks really awesome. There's a couple of great shortcuts at the end. The chain chomp is a nice little addition at the around the halfway and end point. It's a pretty solid track, and what I do find kind of cool about it is they add in these cheese holes that you can do little tiny tricks off of. So it's pretty cool. With that said, I've never found it to be that fun of a track to drive on. It's always felt a little bit on the slippery side, and I'm not exactly sure if that's intentional or not, if the track was designed that way. But there's just something about it that just feels a little off when you're actually driving on it. But just for how awesome the remake is, they obviously went all out here in trying to improve it over the original. I think this deserves to be like a high B or an A tier. So I'm trying to figure out where we're going to put this thing. You know what? I think we're going to throw it in... We're going to throw it in low A tier. We'll put it right next to Hyrule Circuit. And next up, we have Wild Woods. So while the theme itself isn't the most interesting, I mean, we've already seen a handful of forest and like jungly themed tracks in the game. It is pretty cool to get something that is like completely original. We got some pretty nice music overall. I guess the thing that really stands out here is that you drive through this like village kind of place. I don't think it's really referencing anything per se outside of the fact that like Shy Guys seem to own the village, I guess, or I guess they live there. You've got this rushing water section right after that, and then you have these lily pads with like speed boosts that you can trick off of. So I would say overall, even though the theme of Wild Woods isn't all that like extravagant, it's things that we've seen plenty of times before, it is still a very nice looking track. It's a lot of fun to play on, and I think it does a pretty good job at just including a bunch of variety in terms of what's actually happening on the track itself. But I do have to knock it a little bit of points just for the simple fact that, like, it's just like another forest track. It's not the most memorable thing of all time. I think we're going to go ahead and probably throw this in B tier. Now, because the track design is very, very fluid feeling, I'm going to go ahead and place it, I think, fairly high on the B tier. I think we could probably put this, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. You know what? Let's actually put it right above Yoshi Valley. I actually think that's going to end up working really well. So this next one is honestly really, really interesting. One of the more unique tracks in the game, and that is, of course, the Animal Crossing track. And the most distinct thing about it is that there's 4 different versions of it. You've got one different version for every different season, and it's not just aesthetic or visual changes, but there are parts of every single one version of those tracks that changes the gameplay just like a little bit. Like you'll find like snow piles or leaf piles in like different spots, or the road will feel maybe a little bit different. And I think it's really cool that we have a track that does something like this, because we've never really seen this before outside of maybe like, I guess you could say Sunset Wilds on the Game Boy Advance, although that's really not the same thing because that's all one track. But it's just a very, very unique track for that reason. Now, when it comes to the actual track design, it doesn't really do anything all that crazy. There's no gravity or anything along the lines of that, which is fine. It's not really that big of a deal, I suppose. But I don't know. I do think the seasons is pretty cool, and I think there's also a way, like when you use like the D-pad or something, if you like hold a certain button combination, you're able to like choose which season is played. So that's kind of cool. But I think just because the track design isn't the most interesting, I'm not going to place it too high up. Maybe we'll throw this. I think this is probably also a very solid B tier. Now, I don't know exactly where it's going to go in B yet. It might go... Ooh, this is actually kind of hard to decide. You know what? Let's actually throw it. I think we're going to throw it right next to Yoshi Valley. We're going to put it right there. And here we have another track, another 3DS track, I should say, Neo Bowser City, where not much really changes from the original. Now, obviously, the lighting, I think, is the biggest difference here. Like, the track itself not only looks a lot nicer, but it's just so much more vibrant. It doesn't have a, like on the 3DS, it has almost a weird, like, blue tinted filter to it to kind of, like, mask it more as a nighttime stage. Obviously, like, it is taking place in nighttime, the night sky and all that, but I think with the way that the lights are protruded onto the ground and with how, like, all the buildings look in the background, it just looks a lot cleaner than it did on 3DS. Now, in terms of the actual track design, it's pretty solid. It's got, you know, it's got, like, a couple of, like, really, really sharp turns, but it doesn't go overboard with them. There's only a couple of parts within the track itself where it does that. I would say, like, mostly around, like, the second half is where things start to get a little bit more difficult. But I just really think the general, like, aura and the vibe of the track is just very, very distinct. Because, yet again, this is just, like, another city track. But having it take place in nighttime is not nearly as common. I mean, we've only ever seen that in a couple tracks, like Mushroom City from Double Dash, Moonview Highway from Mario Kart Wii. And this is just kind of like another version of that. And while I don't think it is the most interesting track design-wise, I do appreciate that it is a little bit on the harder side, which is nice. So, yeah, I honestly think this probably belongs... You know what? I'm going to throw this one in B tier as well, but I'm not going to put it nearly as high as some of these other ones. I think we'll go ahead and throw it, you know what? Let's put it right there. So it's pretty close to the bottom of B tier, but that doesn't, again, doesn't make it a bad track. It's just not the most interesting. And now we're going to be moving back to Super Circuit with Ribbon Road. And just like with Cheeseland, this remake is absolutely insane. The entire place takes place in... the funny word choice. The entire track takes place in, like, this, like, a big kid's bedroom, essentially. And you can even see that in the background with, like, a bunch of other toys and just, like, board games and stuff just, like, laying around and whatnot. And what's so cool about this one is that, like, once again, it really just feels like its own track. It feels so, so different from the original one. You've got different colored ribbons. The ribbons actually, like, wave, and you can do tracks, or you can do tricks off of them. And then there's a new gliding section that's been added in at the very end. It's just absolutely awesome. It really does a fantastic job at capturing the essence of, like, a kid's bedroom and having, like a Hot Wheels track or something, just, like, hanging out in his room. I had that kind of stuff when I was a kid as well. I did have some Hot Wheels. I think I had some sort of contraption where I could, like, take the Hot Wheels and throw them on, like, a track or something. I don't remember that, but I do remember actually owning the cars themselves. But regardless, it's an absolutely fantastic track. It has really, really great flow. Better flow than I think Cheeseland does. It's just really, really fun and gratifying to play through. It's honestly one of my favorites. I think this is a very solid either A tier or S tier track for me. And on top of that, it has some really great shortcuts too. And some of them can be pretty hard to reach. There's a couple where I don't usually get them just because I'm not super practiced with the track. But yeah, I think this is definitely, I mean, I think just for the theme alone, this deserves and S tier. Like, great, very unique theme, excellent track design. It's got some cool shortcuts. The music's not my favorite of all time, but like music's still pretty good. It's catchy. So yeah, I think we're gonna throw this in S tier now that I'm thinking about it. And you know what? We're gonna move it even above TikTok and Shy Guy. We're gonna put it all the way up here. Now maybe maybe this is a little bit high, but this is just what I'm feeling right now. Yeah, we're gonna rock this. This is good. And next up, we have another track that is more on the unique side, since the entire thing takes place inside of a subway. Now, I don't think the subway is necessarily being referenced from like any particular subway around the world. I think it's just like in general. But what's really cool about it is that it genuinely does feel like you are driving through a subway. You have like these huge trains that'll like drive through on like multiple different sides, and you have to avoid them, but you can also ride the top of them, since there's paths you can take to kind of get yourself up higher, and you can ride them on top to get extra speed. You've got a fun little shortcut at the very end of the lap, which is nice. And I just really like how authentically it feels like an actual subway station. I think that's very, very fun. And it does kind of like fill in that intrigue of like, what would it be like if I were to actually like run through or like drive through a subway? What exactly would it look like? Because usually when you take a subway, everything's like pitch black. Sometimes you can see the inside of the path, but usually you can't see anything. So yeah, this is just a really, really solid track. I just appreciate how many different paths there are to take. I think that's huge for this track. Lots and lots of different paths that you can take with Super Bell Subway. So with that said, I think this is probably either an A or an S tier. This is a really, really great track, and also just fantastic, lovely music. Really, really like the music. Again, I love the attention to detail on everything. There's so much stuff in here. They even have like little shops and like the ticket station and stuff. It's awesome. So yeah, I think with that said, we got, I don't know, the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm talking myself into throwing this into S. Now, I don't know if I would necessarily say that it's my favorite track of all time, just because I think while the track design is fun, it doesn't really do anything all that exciting. I guess I just really like the theme and the attention to detail with the theme itself. But the actual track design is like, it's good, it has lots of different routes, but it's also nothing too crazy. But this next track, oh my goodness, this is the complete opposite, and that is Big Blue. Absolute banger. Honestly, it might still be my all-time favorite Mario Kart track. It takes the exact same ideas and core concepts of Mute City and just cranks it up to an 11. The music is absolutely phenomenal. It is rocking its socks off. You have like these speed boost paths where you can get even faster, and like this is just another one of those tracks that is so much fun to play in 200cc. It is an absolute banger, and like the design itself is just absolutely chaotic, but still has this really great fluidity to it. It's just awesome. I mean, it is genuinely incredible. There's so much that I could say about Big Blue, but like, you already know this track is an absolute banger. It belongs in S tier, and for me, this honestly might still be my favorite track of all time. Now, I'm actually about to go up against all of the... I think we're starting with the Booster Course Pass after this. Yeah, this is the first 48. So, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and throw this at the top, and I'm curious if anything in the Booster Course Pass is going to top Big Blue, because I don't know if it is. I mean, there's literally nothing that I dislike about this track. Everything about it is just absolutely perfect. And it was just a really, really great way to, like, end the DLC from the Wii U version. Like, they really ended it with a bang. And, yeah, man, dude, this track is just freaking awesome. Okay, but let's go ahead and get started with the Booster Course Pass. So, first up, we have our first Mario Kart Tour track. And that, of course, is Paris Promenade. Now, what is kind of cool about all these is that if you live in these locations, you're able to pretty easily spot lots of really distinct areas and landmarks from the cities that these tracks are based around. And I think for anyone that anyone that lives in Paris probably likes this track a lot more than anyone else around the world. Like, look at this. You get this gorgeous shot of the Eiffel Tower, like right halfway through. And that's awesome. But like, The problem with all the tour tracks is the track design itself. The track design is just incredibly boring, and a lot of times the music's very hit or miss. Sometimes the music is really, really well done. Sometimes it just kind of exists. Like, it fills in the space. It doesn't do much more beyond that. And unfortunately, while I do like Paris Promenade, I do think it is a really cool location for them to pick. It's also really boring to play on. There's really not much to it. Now, I don't think this is the worst track per se, but I do think this is probably, unfortunately, going to be another F tier. I think we're going to put this, I would say better than Excitebike Arena. Now, Ice Ice Outpost, you know what? I'm actually going to put it above Ice Ice Outpost. I think that's probably fine, just because I do think, like, it's not just another ice track. Like, it's based on a real city, which is kind of cool inherently. It's just the level design is so, like, ugh. And, like, yeah, sure, you could argue that every lap is different because it kind of mixes together all the different versions from Mario Kart Tour. And, well, again, I appreciate that Nintendo actually went out of their way to basically preserve these Mario Kart Tour tracks and bring them to life in a much higher resolution. But, like, still, it's just not the most fun to play on. All right, and next up we have what honestly might be the worst track in the game, and that is Mario Kart 7's Toad Circuit. It looks abhorrent. Like, it looks, yeah, you could say technically it looks better than, like, the Mario Kart Tour version, because that's the thing with the Booster Course Pass. Like, they're basically all just the exact same maps from Tour, with some slight tweaks here and there, with some graphical upgrades. This track, however, I mean, you look at the grass, it's literally just green. It's just like they pushed the paint bucket tool, and then they made the grass green. They made the sand yellow. Like, that's pretty much what it looks like. It's just a very ugly looking track. And when you, like, go back to the base tracks, even the base DLC tracks, this is very jarring to look at. It's like, whoa, hold on. Am I playing, like, a different Mario Kart? Like, what's going on here? Why is the art style, like, clashing, even with just, like, the character and the kart models? It really does clash a lot, and not only does it not look great, but, like, the track itself is very boring. I mean, this was a beginner track in Mario Kart 7, so it makes sense for them to throw in a beginner track for the very first Booster Course Pass. Totally get it, but the track still sucks, and I think just for the fact that, like, they really did nothing interesting with the graphics, they didn't even attempt to really spruce it up much, I think this is our lowest rated Mario Kart track. We have Toad Circuit. Right now, that is bottom of the barrel. And now we have N64's Choco Mountain. Now, once again, the graphics, the art style clashes with the characters and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is for most of the Booster Course Pass tracks, at least until later on. But regardless, what I do really like about this one is that it does change things quite a bit since you go into, like, this new, like, well, it doesn't necessarily change, like, the cave area from the original game, but it adds in all these, like, crystals and stalagmites, and it really spices it up quite a bit. I also really appreciate that they add in, like, fossils on, like, the, on parts of, like the walls and stuff around the end of the track. I think that's really cool. It does kind of make it feel more ancient and gives it a little bit more of a, just like an old-timey feeling. And you really get that sense, too, with the music, since it goes for a more, like, country kind of vibe. And that just works really well for something like Choco Mountain. It's very old school. Now, is it a fun track to drive through? I would say it is pretty solid, and I do think it is a pretty good upgrade, but it's not one that I'm, like, really that interested in going back to. And, like, they call it Choco Mountain, but it doesn't really remind me of chocolate at all at this point. Like, they really just go all in on the whole mountain idea. So it's just like, okay, we have another mountain track, and while it does spice things up halfway through compared to the original game, I still don't think it's anything all that crazy. This is probably another C tier. Now, where to put it in C tier, that's the question. I think we're going to, honestly, we're going to put it at the very bottom of C tier. And maybe that's a little bit harsh, but this is just one of those tracks where I really like the music a lot, but I'm never really craving to go back and play it. You can catch my drift. And next up, we have probably the most iconic Mario Kart track of all time outside of the Rainbow Roads, and that is Mario Kart Wii's Coconut Mall. Now, of course, the art style, a little bit on the basic side, But in terms of the actual track, I mean, it is still a banger. I mean, they've kept everything in. The only thing that's really different now with Coconut Mall compared to the original is the way that the cars behave at the very end. And this is very fascinating to me because when the game first came out, the cars didn't really do anything. They didn't move around, and Nintendo got a lot of backlash for changing the cars so much for not moving them around. And what's really interesting is that they patched this track in particular and changed the movement of the cars. Now they do like this little like spin attack thing. And I have never seen Nintendo, well, I guess before like Mario Kart World is like updated intermissions, but like before this, I don't think we had ever seen Nintendo go this far to try to change how a track fundamentally works. So I think that's very, very interesting. But regardless of how it might look and the weird way they handle the cars at the end, this track is still freaking awesome. This is still an S tier. Now, I don't know if it's my favorite track of all time, but it's definitely up there just for the theme, the track design, the music is so iconic. It's so catchy. It's one of those songs you hear it and it's just kind of stuck in your head for ages. That's just how we roll with that. So, yeah, I think this definitely belongs to be pretty high up. I think I'm actually going to put it... I'm going to throw it, like, right here. We'll put it right next to Sunshine Airport in Mute City. And next up, we have some more Mario Kart Tour, and that is Tokyo Blur. And, yeah, this track honestly is kind of a blur to play. You'll go through it, and you're like, okay, that was a thing. And it's really unfortunate because, you know, Tokyo is a very, very unique city, just for how vast and just giant it is. And while I do think that this track does cover a lot of the big locations, they're in the background. They don't necessarily like they aren't really involved with the actual track layout itself outside of the Kamarayan. I definitely mispronounced that, but you drive underneath that on the second lap, so that's kind of cool. But like for the most part, you're just driving on a road, and that's basically it. This is just like another city track, and once again, the track layout is just not that interesting. Like, yes, there are some really cool landmarks in the background, but it doesn't really mean much when the track design is so bleh. And also, if you've never been to Tokyo, you're not going to recognize half of this stuff. So, I think this is another F tier, unfortunately. Now, I don't know if it's the worst. I'm really thinking about the track design itself. I actually think, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do a quick change up here. We're going to actually swap Ice and Paris. Okay, here we go. Yes, we're going to go ahead and do this. I think Tokyo Blur is slightly worse than Paris Promenade just because of the track design mostly. It's a little less exciting, even with all three laps being a little bit different. It really never does anything to get all that interesting. And next up, we've got good old DS Shroom Ridge. Now, this is a track I actually really liked in Mario Kart DS. It was one that was really, really fun to do snaking in because, you know, Mario Kart DS is one of my most all-time played Mario Kart games, so I'm very, very familiar with the track. And they did a pretty good job recreating it. They even added in this, like, little ramp around, like, the second half of the track that you can take, assuming you have, like, a mushroom or something to go across the grass. And, you know, again, once again, this is from Mario Kart Tour. That was also in there, but it's just like a nice little touch that they added. And then, also at the end, there's like this, like an air geyser or something that you can use to take a little bit of a shortcut. So it's spiced up a little bit from the original, but I think it could definitely be argued that this is just like, again, another city track because you're just driving on a basic road. You know, you got traffic to avoid, which I guess, okay, that kind of changes things up a little bit, but yeah, it kind of just is another city track, despite how nostalgic I am for it. And I do think the remake, outside of the graphics, is pretty solid. But realistically, I can't really put it up that high. Because this kind of reminds me of something like Toad's Turnpike, honestly. I don't think it's as interesting as Toad's Turnpike. It doesn't have the same history as it. But it is still kind of in that same ballpark. It's better than Mario Kart Stadium and like Cheap Cheap Beach. This is probably... Maybe this is a little bit weird. I'm going to throw it right below Toad's Turnpike. Actually, you know what? I take that back. We're going to swap them because Toad's Turnpike has way more straightaways that are super boring. Okay, we're actually going to put it right, you know what? I'm moving things again. Shroom Ridge is now at the top of D tier. Because Moo Moo Meadows also does not have as interesting track design as Shroom Ridge. Shroom Ridge is much more varied. And up next, we have another Game Boy Advance track, Sky Garden. I think this is probably one of the most famous tracks from Super Circuit. It's at least the one that I always think of when it comes to that game. It's a really, really fun track in that game. And it also got a remake in Mario Kart DS too. But this one looks totally different. Like, the road itself is now like orange. And the actual level layout is altered quite a bit. Like, technically, it does kind of follow the same path as the original, but it's been changed so much at this point that it really just feels like it's its own thing, kind of like Ribbon Road and Cheeseland. And I do like the track. I like that it kind of kept... There was like a shortcut you could take at the end of Sky Garden in the original game. And you can still do a shortcut. It's totally different the way it works. But I do like the track. I think it's pretty solid. It's got incredible music. Honestly, one of my favorite Mario Kart songs of all time. I love Sky Garden's music. I honestly think the track design is too different from the original. I do think it kind of loses that flair. And while I'm not necessarily like judging it based off of what it used to be originally, when comparing it to everything else, it's been simplified a lot. The design of the actual track is much more simple. I do really like the theme a lot. I love the music, so I think this definitely belongs at least in... Ooh, this could be a sacrilege one. I honestly want to throw this in C tier. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about C. Now, I think it's probably at the very top of C, or maybe it's like a low B. It's kind of hard to say. Well, no, I don't know. I do honestly think the track design is just a little bit too simple to really keep it anything higher than C, so it's going to be at the very, very top, which is unfortunate because I absolutely love this track in Super Circuit. So you know what? We're just going to put it right there. Let's just go for it. And now we've got probably our first banger from Mario Kart Tour exclusively, and that is Ninja Hideaway. This track is honestly what like Tokyo Blur should have been more like, because it takes place in similar, it's like based around like the same kind of location. And what I really like about Ninja Hideaway is just how many different routes there are to take. Like, you could drive on the ceiling. There's like tons of different like alleyways that you can take. You have like these bamboo air paths that you'll use to shoot yourself higher into the air as you're gliding. Like, there's just so much going on with Ninja Hideaway. And then the song itself is also very, very good. It's not my favorite song ever, but it does a really, really great job of creating more immersion with the track itself. I just really appreciate just how like well detailed and thought out the track is. And it's so bizarre to me because like so many of the unique Mario Kart Tour tracks are just so basic in design. And then out of nowhere, you get Ninja Hideaway and it's like, holy crap, this is actually really damn good. It's a very, very solid one. And I think this belongs this is either an A tier or an S tier. It's really, really hard to say. I do really like just how many different routes you can take, and everything just flows so well. This, honestly, I think we're going to put this near the top of the A tier. I think it is worthy of that. And it's a very cool location, and like we've seen it a few times in the past, but the way that they go about it here is just really, really well done. So like actually driving through a temple, like we haven't really seen that per se. So I think this probably belongs... Ooh, this is a hard pick. You know what? Let's throw it right underneath Piranha Plant Slide. I think that's going to work. It's hard to say. That could be above, could be below, but we'll just go with that. And next up, we have the very first Mario Kart Tour track to ever debut, and that is New York Minute, which is based on New York City. And I do have to say, the track itself is very lively. I do really like how it looks. It's fun seeing all of the like Mario-themed advertisements on the buildings, and it's cool that you get to like drive through Central Park for parts of it as well. And I would probably say this is one of the more interesting tracks when it comes to what came out of Tour, just because you're not driving on a road the whole time. Like, the fact that you actually go through Central Park for a little bit is pretty novel. And you also have like a bunch of like buses that you can drive on top. And I just think like the general landscape is just more fun to look at. Like, aesthetically, it's just a very fun track to explore. Now, I still don't think it's anything too crazy, Once again, like the track design is just kind of on the basic side. It's nothing too crazy, so I would probably argue this is a D or a C tier. I'm probably gonna throw this. You know what? I think I'm gonna throw it in C tier. I think this is a perfectly fine C tier. We'll put it right at the bottom. Again, like the track design is still just kind of like whatever. It is somewhat varied, and it is an interesting location, but like again, you're just driving through a city. There are way too many of these in Mario Kart at this point. And next up, we have SNES Mario Circuit 3. Well, I can definitely agree that this track can be really fun to drive around, especially if you're playing at like 200cc. It is just so freaking boring, and it's like, why do we get this? I mean, we already have the Game Boy Advance Mario Circuit. Like, shouldn't that have fulfilled the role of the retro-looking track? Like, I can understand, like, okay, they want to make things look like the original, but now it's in HD. But they already did that with the Game Boy Advance version of Mario Circuit. So I don't know why they did this again. This just really felt like a big wasted opportunity. But at the very least, I can at least argue that it is a fun track to drive through. So I'll give it that. It does have a boost at the end. It has one shortcut. Yay. I can't put it up much. I can't really say much more beyond that. I think it's kind of like in the same era as like the Donut Plains 3. You know what? I'm actually going to put it below Donut Plains 3. Just because at least with Donut Plains, the road itself looks much more interesting with the way that sometimes it'll get like all dirty and there's like water puddles and whatnot. Where here, everything just looks the same the whole way through. And there's just not much beyond that. And now we have another Mario Kart 64 track, and that is Calamari Desert. Now, Calamari Desert, I've always been very fascinated by this track, especially in the Mario Kart 64 days, because of the whole idea of driving through the, basically like where the train goes and driving through like the mountain and whatnot. Well, what's really cool about this track is that once you hit the second lap, you literally do drive through where the train is. And I just think the fact that you actually get to explore what was something that piqued so many people's curiosities back in the day, and actually like converting that into the track itself is absolutely ingenious. And it does make the track a lot more interesting, because otherwise this would just be like another desert track. But just the fact that they added that in, I think is awesome. But that's really the only part of Calamari Desert that I find to be interesting. Like, I guess it's a fairly decent track to drive through, but there's also a lot of straightaways. There are a lot of straightaways, and that can get a little bit dull. So, even though I do really like the change, I don't think it's enough to really rank it that high. I think it's probably, I would argue either like D tier or C tier range. You know what? I think we're actually going to throw this in C tier. We're not going to put it up very high. Let's actually put it next to Dry Dry. Ooh, you know what? I would argue it's better than like Dry Dry and Bone Dry Dunes. Let's put it right here. We're going to putting all the desert tracks together. They're all kind of similar, although Calamari Desert does at least attempt to make some sort of standout. All right, well, we've gotten to Waluigi Pinball. This track is so beloved at this point that it is now a thing where people say it's overrated. Like, people love the track so much, it has reached the point where people will say that it's just overrated and it's actually not that good. I'm sorry. That's just not true. Like, there really is still nothing quite like it in Mario Kart. Like, driving in a pinball machine, you have the pinball sounds when you get the item box, the absolutely infectious music, the incredible flow that the entire track has. There's so much to it that I just adore. Now, I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put this, because this is an S tier. I don't know if I want to put it at the very top. Now, that might be kind of crazy. If you've been watching me for a while, you know Waluigi Pinball has basically always been my favorite Mario Kart track, and I think in my heart it probably is. But if I'm trying to look at this list and what like I would want to play the most, I actually still think I would want to play Big Blue, Mount Wario, and maybe like Music Park, and even, well, maybe not Sunshine Airport. I don't know. Because like this is definitely like a top 5 to top 10 contender. Regardless of what people think, I don't think the track is overrated whatsoever. But when it comes to I guess, like, pure chaos or innovation with the actual level design. Like, there is still a lot there, but it's just doesn't quite push the envelope like some of these other tracks. So I think let's go ahead and we're gonna throw this somewhere up here. I mean, it's ooh, man, this is honestly kind of hard. You know what? I can't believe I'm doing this. We're gonna put it. Ooh. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. Do I like it in that spot? I mean, maybe I do. Maybe I hate it. Maybe I'll wake up at 3 in the morning tonight and regret my life choices. Oh, I don't know. I really want to put it up here, but I don't think I should, because I'm just looking at these. Oh my God, I don't know why I'm having this argument with myself. You know what? Okay, we're gonna do it. We're just gonna put this right here. This is top 3. Well, no, actually, dude, like, it's so hard to say. God, it's like trying to pick your favorite child. This is so hard to pick. I'm just gonna leave it here. Just because I have nostalgia for both of these tracks. I have known Music Park for an extremely long time, just like Waluigi Pinball. Like, I didn't necessarily grow up with Music Park, but I did play it like over 10 years ago, so I have a ton of nostalgia for it. I don't know. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna throw those both right there. That was hard. I'm not gonna. That was really hard to pick. Okay, well, let's go back to Mario Kart Tour because there's still a bunch of these to do. We have Sydney Sprint as our next one, and I actually like this one. I don't think it's the craziest track of all time, but I just think the fact that you get to drive through the Sydney Opera House, and there's just so many more fun landmarks that are included here, and the fact that the actual track design attempts to be somewhat interesting. You have actual ramps when you get on, like, the bridge, which is really nice. I can appreciate it actually trying to spice things up and not just be like a flat road with a couple of, like, very light hills. So I think for that, and also the fact that this might just be the best Mario Kart song of all time. Like, seriously, go listen to Sydney Sprint and tell me I'm wrong, because there's no way that you will not fall in love with the song if you haven't heard it. The Sydney Sprint music is genuinely amazing. But where to put it on the tier list? I think this has to be at least like a B tier, because I can't really put it much higher than that, just because, like, it is still a city track. It still has a lot of, like, boring roads to drive on, but it does change things up a lot, so it doesn't feel so much like a typical city track. And I think for that reason, like, this is kind of like on the same level as Bowser City and Royal Raceway, where, again, these are city tracks, but they do some things to try to stand out on their own. And I think Sydney Sprint is very much in that same ballpark. And for that reason, I think this has to go right here. We're going to put it slightly above Neo Bowser City. Let's just go with that. And here we have yet another Super Circuit track. We've got Snowland. And what I really love about this track is that it really tries to capture that same essence that the original had. And you can tell immediately, just based off of the pink sky and the massive crystals in the background. That was such a striking part of that original track. So seeing that retained and really brought to life here is awesome. And what I also really like about it is that, once again, like a lot of the other Game Boy Advance tracks, the level design, while it is technically the same, feels very, very different. It feels, again, just like its own unique track, and I think that is really, really cool. And this is also the point where we're starting to see these Booster Course packs, in terms of the visuals, start to get a little bit better, especially compared to, like, Booster Course packs like 1 and 2. I think this track looks pretty good. Like, the road has a little bit of a icy tint on it, and you can feel that since you are driving on ice. And yeah, I think this is honestly a really, really solid one. There's nothing about it that really stands out all that much outside of, like, maybe the background, and I do really like the music as well. The music is very heartwarming, but I don't know if really anything beyond that is too crazy. So I'm thinking this might be a B or like a really, really high C tier. You know, I think just because, like, it doesn't really do a lot to stand out outside of the fact that, like, this is just another snow track. I think we probably throw this. I think we're going to go ahead and throw this in C tier, and I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to put it right above. Actually, putting it above Calamari feels a little bit weird. I actually think we should do this. Yeah, we're going to put it in between Calamari and Bone Dry. And next up, we've got Wii Mushroom Gorge. This is, again, another very iconic track from Mario Kart Wii. I absolutely love it, where the big gimmick is you're bouncing off a bunch of different mushrooms, and at the end you go into like this massive cave, and you're literally just bouncing off mushrooms the whole time. And what made it so special in Mario Kart Wii is that you really had to pre-plan where exactly your cart was going to end up and what direction it was facing, just because of the way that momentum worked when you were in the air. Whereas in this game, your character feels, I guess you could say, heavier, so it's much easier to kind of like aim what direction you're going in, which I can appreciate. The only thing I don't like about this track is that the ending that I've been talking about, they make it too easy, because they add in all of these extra mushrooms on the left side, whereas what ended up happening with the Mario Kart 7 remake is that all they did was, well, I guess in the original too, was they have like a blue mushroom where you can start gliding. Well, you do that in Mario Kart 7. You know what I'm saying. I digress. They just made it like way too easy to get through that section, because that was kind of the charm of the original, was the fact that bouncing off the mushrooms and figuring out which path to take was part of what made it unique. And I think it's cool that like this track kind of has both elements. You can still do that blue mushroom glide if you want, or just hop off the mushrooms as so. But yeah, I do think just the fact that it's a little bit more on the easy side does knock it points a little bit. It's still a really fun track, and I think this is absolutely worthy of, I would say probably, I mean, this is probably an A tier. I think this honestly is an A tier because it has really great flow to it as well, but I don't want to put it up too high. I think I'm probably going to put it, you know what? We're going to put it right here. We'll put it right below Toad Harbor. I think that's going to work. Now, this next one is so interesting to me, and that, of course, is Mario Kart Tour's Sky High Sundae. So we have another unique track that's not just a retro remake. And this one's so interesting just because it just feels like a alpha version of what we have in Mario Kart World. Because this track is so much better in Mario Kart World with all of the rail grinding that you can do. Whereas, like, this version, it just kind of feels like a big oval. And while I do really like the theme, and I do like that there are plenty of places to trick, there are multiple routes you can take, a lot of the routes themselves don't really change the gameplay that much. Like, it doesn't really feel like you're taking like some sort of extravagant path when you take a different route, because at the end of the day, everyone's just going in one huge oval, and that's just kind of how it is. And you can really tell this is a mobile track, I think, because people have been debating, like, did Sky High Sundae start as a Mario Kart World track, or did it start as a Mario Kart Tour track? No one really knows the answer, but to me, I honestly think it started as a Mario Kart Tour track, and then they just improved on it a lot in World. Just because, like this track is so tour-coded when you look at how many places there are to boost, because the whole point of Mario Kart Tour is chaining combos together, and one of the ways that you combo in the game is to do tricks in the air. So I think just because there are so many spots to do it, it just kind of makes it feel like a mobile track. And I still think it's a fine track. I don't think it's anything all that great. And it's unfortunate because I really like the theme. I like the food theme tracks. There's only a couple of them in this game. The only other one I can think of is like Sweet Sweet Canyon. But yeah, I think this is probably, unfortunately, this is probably going to have to be a D tier. I really hate to say it, but I just think the level design is way too simplistic. And for that reason, yeah, this has got to be a D, I think. We're probably going to throw this. You know what? We're actually going to put this, we're going to put it slightly above Toad's Turnpike. But, like, this could be easily debated, I think, because they're kind of similar, right? Like, Toad's Turnpike is a lot of straightaways. But at least with Sky High Sundae, you're constantly tricking. So I guess that's more interesting. But at the same time, it just has, like, this weird sense of flow to it when you're actually driving on the track. So, yeah, I think it's going to have to go in D tier. And now we have Mario Kart Tour's London Loop. And once again, I've been saying this for all the tour tracks. It is cool that they basically made something that is based on London and has a ton of landmarks from it. The only one that I've really been able to spot is like the Eye. It's like this huge Ferris wheel. That's one that I always remember as a kid when I visited London one time. But alas, the actual track design is just kind of fine. I would say it's definitely more varied than something like Paris Promenade or Tokyo Blur. I do think you are doing a little bit more in terms of variety. Like, yeah, there's like this bridge that comes up and you can trick off of that. And then at some point there's like a chain chomp bouncing off the water. So I guess that's kind of interesting, I suppose. But I do also think, like, there's just, like, once again, the level layout really just doesn't do a lot to keep me hooked. There's just not much there. But it's not an F tier. This is definitely not an F tier. I would probably argue this is more a D tier or maybe a C. I would probably say more of a D tier, honestly. Like, this probably goes, I would say near the top of D tier. Maybe around, oh, I don't know. You know, I think we're actually going to put it right next to Sky High Sunday. Although we're going to put it one, we're going to put it up one, well, I don't know. Maybe it's better than Moo Moo Meadows. I have scared all the Moo Moo Meadows fans. That's right. We are putting it lower on the list. Let's do it. Okay, next up we have GBA, again, another Mario Kart Super Circuit track, but this is Boo Lake. It is a really, really well done remake, and what I like about this one is that while most of the Super Circuit tracks kind of try to change the level so much that it feels like its own thing, this still very much feels like Boo Lake. There are some differences to it now. You have this like new water section, and the way the shortcut works is completely different. It has like this grassy area, and there's like bushes and stuff that you can blast through, assuming you have a mushroom. So I think it's kind of cool that like a portion of this just takes place underwater. And it's not for very long either. It might be like a quarter or a third of the track. So it's distinct enough to where it makes the track pretty memorable, but it doesn't really like slow down the flow or anything. I think this is honestly a pretty solid ghost track. Now, is it as interesting as something like Twisted Mansion? No, probably not. It's still very flat, but I can at least appreciate that it's still fun to play on. I think this is probably, like, this has got to be, I would say it's probably a B tier. Now, I don't know exactly where I'm going to put it in B. Probably, I would say, like, you know what, right at the bottom. I actually think right at the bottom is going to work well. And now, we've got Mario Kart 7's Rock Rock Mountain. This is another track that really hasn't changed much from that game. And I don't think it really needed to. Rock Rock Mountain has always been a pretty fun one to me. While it is a theme that we've seen so many times at this point, like going through a cave, going through a mountain, yada, yada, yada. What is really cool about this one is when you get around 50% of the way through the stage, you take this really, really massive glider jump, and you can just see basically like half of the level. And I think that is very, very fun. It doesn't necessarily add anything too crazy, but it's still kind of a fun little spectacle. It's something you don't really get in most tracks outside of maybe something like Royal Raceway. That has a big jump, but this is a way bigger jump than even that one. And I do like the end, too, where you're literally, like, climbing up a mountain and you have, like, boulders coming down trying to hit you. I think that's really fun. There's a lot to this track that can be said that's really cool. The actual theme isn't all that interesting, but I do like the music, and I do think the track design is pretty solid, so I think that definitely warrants at least like a B tier. I think a B tier is, well, honestly, maybe, yeah, no, I would say like a B tier is fine. I was thinking maybe an A, but I think it's probably a little too high, just because, like, again, like, the theme has been done so many times. But yeah, this is definitely a great contender for a B tier. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put it. I think we're going to throw this one right around the middle of the B tier. I think that's pretty fair. And next up, we've got Mario Kart Wii's Maple Tree Way. If you've been watching me for a while, it's kind of a, it's a track, all right. It's a track that does not have that wiggly bridge anymore. Now you just, at the very end, you just kind of like fly across. It's not as interesting as the bridge. But anyway, Wii Maple Tree Way is freaking awesome. I mean, you're driving on huge branches, and you've got like these massive wigglers to avoid at some point. And just the fact that we've been like miniaturized and we're basically just driving across like tree trunks is freaking awesome. This is such a fun track. The music is so inviting. It makes you want to, this is like incredible hiking music. I feel like if I were to watch a movie about hiking, this kind of song would be playing when some sort of like cool montage is happening. So, yeah, this track's freaking awesome. I absolutely love and adore Maple Tree Way. It's a classic. It belongs... I would honestly say this is an S tier. Like, no, it exceeds A tier. Just because, like, yes, you could argue, like, yeah, this is just another forest track, but the way that they went about it is totally different from every other forest track. Like, making the trees massive, or I guess shrinking us down, whatever the thought process was, is very unique on its own. And it's a very fun track to play. So, yeah, this absolutely deserves to be an S tier. Now, where in S tier? Obviously, this is very debatable, but I think we're going to put this... I think we're going to put it, like, right about here. You know what? I think that's pretty good. We'll put it right in between Ribbon Road and Shy Guy Falls. Now, we're starting with Mario Kart Tour... Not starting. We're continuing with Mario Kart Tour's Berlin Byways. This is unfortunately just another tour track where it's not the most interesting to drive across. Like, yes, there is some traffic. There are some relatively, like, sharp turns here and there. But for the most part, you're just on the road yet again. The music's great. I'll give it that. Great music. But there's just not much beyond that. Like, yeah, you do also go through the Bahnhof. It is the train station in Berlin. But... yeah, I mean, it's just kind of another track. Like, the only thing that I can really think about that's kind of memorable is, I think on the final lap in this version, the Berlin Wall is replaced with thwomps and it turns into obstacles. I think that's a very nice little touch. I do like that a lot. But I don't think it's enough to really save this track. Like, for the most part, it's just kind of dull. It's not very memorable. It's another tour track. This is probably another D tier. To be honest, I think you know what? It'll probably be like high D tier just for that one detail on the with the thwomps, but I don't think I can put it much higher than that. Honestly, I'm thinking we're gonna throw this. You know what? We're gonna put it right there. And here we have Mario Kart DS's Peach Gardens. This is another one that I really, really liked in Mario Kart DS, but I feel like no one really talked about. And it's not the most unique theme. It's just kind of like another grassy area, but you could also argue it is kind of unique because it is all about gardens. That's basically what you're driving through. And if you play this version and then go back to the Mario Kart DS one, there's actually a lot of changes. The actual gardens that are obstacles, most of them have been moved around and put in places to where it's basically not an obstacle whatsoever. I do feel like this is unfortunately one of those tracks that has been muddied a little bit from being more simplistic. I do kind of miss the fact that, like, it used to be kind of challenging to have to weave your way through a couple of the gardens. So that's unfortunate. And of course, yes, the final lap, you drive the course backwards. That is really cool. That is very, very cool. But I don't think that really warranted simplifying the track so much. Because even, like, the big hedge in the middle of the track, like, those hedges are way more simplistic now, too. And it really felt like more like an actual hedge maze in the original game, and you just don't really get that with this version. So I think people really like this track. I think I kind of have the unpopular opinion that I vastly prefer the original over this one. Like, this one's still fine, but I do feel like they kind of butchered it a little bit too much. So the question is where to put it. I think, like, again, it's still a fine track. It's just a little bit too dumbed down for me. So I think probably C tier is going to be fair. Maybe we will throw this. Yeah, you know what? Do Dry Desert Snowland. You know what? Let's put it. I think it's probably... I would say it's better than Sky Garden. You know, we'll put it at the very top of C tier. I think that's totally fair. And now we have another track that also feels very much like it comes from Mario Kart Tour, and that is Merry Mountain. The actual layout is, it's not the most basic. It's not as basic as something like Sky is Sunday, but you can kind of tell, like, okay, there's a lot of places to trick. Merry Mountain is very clearly supposed to be for the tour tracks, but it still has its fun moments. It is cool to have an actual, like, Christmas theme, like a proper Christmas-themed track, because, like, the closest thing we ever got is, like, maybe Snowland, and that's not really a Christmas track, but this has a freaking sleigh that's just, like, flying around the whole time. So that's kind of cool. And you have, like, a Christmassy kind of village at the very beginning as well. So there's a lot here to love. I do really like how it looks. It definitely looks a lot better in this game. like texture-wise compared to Tour. So I like Merry Mountain, but I do feel like there's kind of just like a lot of straightaways again, and doesn't do anything too crazy. This is honestly probably, I don't know if I want to say D. I think D tier might be a little bit too harsh. Well, maybe not. I don't know, because like the more I think about it, the more it really is just kind of Sky High Sundae again, but like a more revamped or extravagant version of Sky High. So yeah, I think I unfortunately have to throw this one in D tier, and yeah, maybe it's a little bit harsh. I think it's better than Sky High. Maybe better than... you know what? It's only slightly better. I've decided. Off the top of my head, it is slightly better. Okay, now we're getting to an actual banger, and that is Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road. Again, if you watched me for a while, you know how much I am infatuated with this track. Just the idea of flying on the moon, on Saturn's rings, and just like all of the different things that you do, all the different places that you go, it genuinely feels like an adventure. And this remake is incredible. Now, maybe they simplify or I should not say simplify, they smooth out a couple of the areas here and there when it comes to the actual road, but overall, this feels very, very much like the Mario Kart 7 version, except that it looks significantly better. The music is also absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite parts of the track. Like, the music, it really just makes you feel like you're traveling through space. There's just something about it that just, like, raises the hairs on your arms, and it's just awesome. I adore Mario Kart 7's Rainbow Road. Oh, man, this honestly might be... It really could be my #1 Mario Kart track. I don't know if it is. I still think Big Blue just goes absolutely bananas with its level design, well, that's the thing, like, Mario Kart 7's level design is also crazy, especially considering this was originally on a freaking handheld. And I still don't know how Nintendo's going to top this Rainbow Road. I genuinely have no idea how they're going to top it. Yeah, I'm trying to decide, like, this has got to be like a top 3 for me. Like, it's kind of a fight between the #1 spot and the #2 spot, I think, right now. Ooh, oh, this is a really, really hard decision. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm probably going to throw this. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm going to put it right below Big Blue. Maybe I'll move it later, but I think for now, that's what we're going to go with. Freaking love this track. I'm so glad they brought it back. It's very, very cool to see it return. It deserved it. And now it's time to go back to the Mario Kart Tour tracks. We have Amsterdam Drift here. And once again, it is very faithful to Amsterdam. It has, it's got quite a few landmarks here that are kind of cool. I do like that you drive through the, I forget exactly, there's like this like rose, it's like a big garden essentially. Is it just called Rose Garden? I don't remember. But basically, on the second lap, there's a big garden that you drive through. That's kind of cool. So I like that with this track. You do drive through, there's a bit of city, you go underwater for a little bit, you have like the garden, and there's like a couple of like slightly unique areas that you go through. I think that makes this definitely better than most of the tour tracks, but at the same time, I do feel like the actual track design still doesn't really deliver on anything all that remarkable. Like, probably the most interesting thing is diving into the rivers, and that's actually a very big part of Amsterdam is the rivers themselves, because like the entire city is basically built around them. So actually driving in the rivers is kind of cool. It is a very novel thing, but again, like, it's something you don't appreciate unless you've actually been there or you actually live there. So yeah, this is probably, I would probably say this is still like a C tier. It's probably like, it's a pretty good tour track, but I can't really give it much more praise than that. Like, it does a decent job when it comes to the tour track. It's more interesting than I would say like New York Minute for sure. It's probably, honestly, you know what? I think we're actually going to put it at the, I'm like looking at all these C tier tracks. I think we're going to go ahead and put it at the very top. Yeah, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about that. Let's put Amsterdam right there. And next up, we have yet another Mario Kart Super Circuit track, and that is Riverside Park. Now, this one, like a lot of the other ones, does change things up quite a bit. I would say probably like the first half looks a lot like the original, while the second half is totally different. It adds like this massive cave section And it's pretty wild. It's really cool the way they went about it. Yeah, this is kind of just like, it's Riverside Park again. You're driving through another forest. And the level design, once again, just isn't anything all that crazy. I do really like that they changed up the ending with the cave. It looks really nice. I'll give them that. But I think beyond that, it's really nothing too crazy. It just kind of blends in with all of the other jungle tracks. Like, this is kind of like a worse version of like Wild Woods to me. It's not bad, but it's really not anything all that crazy. So, looking at this list here, I think this is probably... I actually think I'm going to throw this in D tier, just because like there's just not much to the level design itself. Yeah, this is probably going to go... Ooh, I think we're gonna put it higher than these tour tracks. It's kind of like on the same level as like Moo Moo Meadows. Let's actually put it slightly above Moo Moo Meadows. I think that's fair. And now we've got Wii's DK Summit. Well, I think this track looks significantly better in Mario Kart Wii, just aesthetically. This track is still fun. I mean, DK Summit's still a classic. The barrel blast at the beginning, it doesn't feel like you're going as fast up the mountain. I don't think you are, technically, but it's still satisfying, and actually going down the hill is still very, very cool. There's tons of places to trick. You've got big snow piles to worry about. There's snowboarding Shy Guys to avoid. There's a lot here that's been carried over from the Wii version of the game. It's still really, really fun. It's probably one of the most interesting snow tracks outside of something like Mount Wario. I would probably say this has got to be like, oh, I don't know, probably an A tier. I think this is probably like a really, really high A tier. Maybe even like an S tier. This could be an S. I can see that. You know, let's actually throw it an S. Let's put it at like the bottom of S. Okay, I kind of forgot this track existed, which is crazy because it's one of the best tracks of all time, and that is Yoshi's Island. And what's so great about this one is, again, just the attention to detail. The sound effects, the beginning and ending music, everything is catered to the Yoshi Island games. And all the different enemies, like there's so many really unique enemies that are only in the Yoshi's Island series that are featured here. Like you see like Poochie is just chilling at the very top. And you have like the Magmars or whatever they're called, like in the background at the end. And I just think this track is just so freaking cool, and just it's so faithful to Yoshi's Island. That's what I really appreciated about it a lot. Just the attention to detail is just awesome. And even at the end, you can hit the that cloud question mark block, and you basically create a track in front of you. That's so awesome. That's so cool. But now that some time has passed, because this track's been out for a couple years at this point, I think it's maybe a little bit on the simple side. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that. I actually think maybe the actual layout is a little on the simple side. So while it is genuinely amazing at how well it's captured the energy and the general feel of what Yoshi's Island is, the actual track is just kind of okay. But I think just, even though it isn't the craziest to drive on, and it isn't anything too memorable in terms of actual driving, just everything else about it is so incredible. It's got to be at least A tier. This absolutely deserves, at the very least, an A tier. And honestly, maybe that's too low. That might be too low. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put this at the very top of A tier. I don't think it quite cracks S, but I think the top of A works quite well. And next up, we have Bangkok Rush from Mario Kart Tour. This is from Thailand. And this is, again, one of the more interesting city-themed tracks. You are still driving through roads a lot. Well, every track's road. You know what I'm saying? There is still a lot of, like, city environment going on. What is really cool is that you can drive across, like, water and, like, boats. That is awesome. There's also a section where you're bouncing off of I forget exactly what I'm blanking right now. It's all the colored tents. So you're like bouncing off of the top of those. That is very, very cool. And yeah, I like I said, it is kind of just another city track, but it at least makes attempts at making the level design a little bit more interesting, and I can't fault it for that reason. I still don't think it's anything all that crazy. It's like there's only a few parts of this that are kind of neat, but then the rest of it is just like, oh, well, it's more just city driving, and that's it. So I don't know if I can really put it up that high. This is probably still like a D tier. I would honestly rank this near... it's kind of similar to something like Berlin Byways or London Loop, where it has a few interesting aspects to it, but for the most part, there's really just not much going on. So I'm thinking we're probably going to... I don't know. I think D tier is still probably a little bit too harsh. I think... You know what? Let's actually put it right below New York Minute. There we go. We'll go ahead and do that. This is such a weird one for them to bring back. Mario Kart DS's Mario Circuit. Just why? Why? We already have like 3 of them. We have the Mario Kart 8 version, we have the SNES version, and the Game Boy Advance version, and now there's the DS version. Like, what are we doing here? This is way too many Mario Circuits, but whatever. It's brought back. It is very, very similar to the original one. The only big difference with this version of Mario Circuit is on the, well, I guess on all the laps, technically, you go into a foresty area, and there's a wiggler that, like, will show up. I think the wiggler shows up on the 2nd and 3rd lap. I don't remember which lap it is. But that's, like, the only thing that's kind of distinct about it. And I think Nintendo did that because they realized, like, oh, this really is just, like, another Mario Circuit. We need to stand out a little bit. I don't think it's really enough for it to stand out, to be quite frank with you. It's kind of in the same ballpark as all the other Mario Circuits. It's not as, like, boring as the Game Boy Advance one, but it really doesn't do much more beyond that, so... Well, I don't know. It's kind of more interesting than even the Mario Kart 8 one, because at least this one has, like, more turns and stuff, so... Let's go to Mario Kart Stadium. You know what? Let's actually put it, we're going to put it right... Maybe this is too high. I'm going to put it right here, in between Toad's Turnpike and Cheep Cheep Beach. And now we've got another classic, and that, of course, is Double Dash's Waluigi Stadium. This one has actually been altered quite a bit. It adds in new girder sections around the second half point, where basically you can kind of drive like on top of the stage, and it's not really faster or slower. It's just like another route to take, and I really appreciate that. I do think maybe it makes the stage itself look a little cluttered. Like, I do like the simplicity of how the track looked in the original game. But I think a lot of the reason I like this track so much in the original is just because the music is so good. It is so, so catchy. But, like, I think I would have preferred to see Wario Coliseum get a remake. I think that stage is much more interesting than this one. But this one is still a classic. It's still a ton of fun to play. And even though I would have preferred Wario Coliseum, I still think this is one of the best stadium tracks, if not the best ones, outside of maybe, like, Mario Kart World's Wario Stadium. That one is, oh my god, that one is so good. I think this is probably, if I had to put it somewhere, it's probably an A tier. I think this is definitely an A tier contender. Definitely, I would say better than the DS Wario Stadium. I think the track flows better than that one. I would say better than Mushroom Gorge, Toad Harbor. Now we're getting to the point where it's, maybe around the middle of A tier's fair for Waluigi Stadium. You know what? Let's throw it. Let's throw it right there. Waluigi Stadium, Wario's Gold Mine. That's the order we're going to go with. And now we move on to another city-based track. This is Singapore Speedway. And wow, they actually went really hard with this one. Not only does it look absolutely fantastic, it is so, so colorful. But they really went out of their way to make this one exciting to play on. Like, right around the beginning, you're driving up into the air, into this, like, pool kind of area, and then you drive off over this soccer field that's floating in the water, and it takes you back into the city. Like, holy crap, dude, there's just so much going on with the stage. And yes, there is still a lot of city driving. The way they go about it is much, much more interesting than the vast majority of city tracks. And especially like with the second and the third lap in particular, there's a lot of like flying around that you're going to be doing. And you're taking like all these like weird looking like roads and whatnot. Like there's like neon roads I think that you're like driving through. So I would probably say this is a contender for like, this is like a good B tier track. It's a very solid B tier. It might even be my favorite city-based track when it comes to Mario Kart Tour. Yeah, I think I'd rather play this than like Rainbow Road, DK Jungle, Sweet Sweet, Twisted. Okay, now we're starting to get, well, you know what? I think it's probably gonna be around here. We're gonna put it. I think we're gonna put it. We're gonna put it right there. I think that works. And we're not done with Tour yet because we've got Athens Dash is our next course. And here we're not really driving on a city. We're driving through Athens. So it's very, very ancient. And I think for that reason, just because like the actual like layout is different, it does kind of stand out as its own thing. I think it's like the track design is also a little bit more interesting. Again, it doesn't really do anything too crazy, but the fact that you're kind of like driving through like bits and pieces of like the Coliseum, I think is very, very cool. It's a really smart way of going about it. So yeah, I don't know. This is probably it's one of those tracks that like it is really good, but at least to me, I never really think about it. It's one that doesn't really come to mind very easily. So maybe I don't know. I don't really want to rank it that low because like it really does try to do a lot to spice things up when it comes to the actual like level layout. So I think this at least belongs in like B tier. It just doesn't really do anything to like change things up a bunch. So I'm thinking maybe this goes, I would say close to Sydney Sprint. I would say maybe even a little bit better than Sydney Sprint. Maybe a bit better than Dragon Driftway and Rainbow Road, but not DK Jungle. I'm actually going to throw this right there. And now we have Daisy Cruiser. Once again, another classic Mario Kart track. Coming from Double Dash, of course. You're driving on, well, name says it itself, Daisy Cruiser. And it takes a lot of inspiration from Mario Kart 7, where you can go through the pool at the very beginning. So obviously you could do that in this game. There's water driving, but that's been retained. The whole dinner thing has been retained. And what's really cool is the with all the tables like going around on the ship and moving around, they've added in like little Koopas and Toads eating together. That is adorable. I really, really like that they did that. I think it's just adorable. It's such a great little touch. And this is just such a great stage. I mean, Daisy Cruiser is a banger. There's nothing that's really all that wrong with it. I guess you could argue like maybe parts of it feel a little bit on the basic side, but even then, it's so few and far between. I just think this is an absolutely action-packed stage. There's so much going on in Daisy Cruiser, and it's like a really, really unique theme too. This has got to be another S tier. I think this is absolutely an S tier. The question is just where to put it on S. That's hard to decide. And I think we're going to put it probably like maybe like top 10, top 15. I think is absolutely worthy for Daisy Cruiser. I think maybe we'll throw this. Ooh, let's actually put it slightly above Mute City. And yeah, we're going to put it right below Coconut Mall. So pretty high regards for this one. And next up we have another city track, but one of the most interesting ones in the game, and that, of course, is Moonview Highway. Again, coming from Mario Kart Wii. Now, yes, you are just driving through a city again, but the music, oh my god, the music just gets you, like, really, really hyped to play. There's just something about it that is really, really just, like, hyper-inducing, and it's very, very fast-paced. Very, very big fan of the music. And what I like about this track is that you kind of start off in like a mountainy area, and then you drive into the city itself. You even have to go through like a toll gate, which is kind of funny. And once you get inside, then the traffic starts to pick up, and you have all sorts of stuff to avoid. And I think this is a really good remake, but at the same time, like with a lot of the other remakes, the difficulty's been dumbed down a lot, because I distinctly remember and know that in Mario Kart Wii, it can be really hard to avoid the cars because they kind of just come up out of nowhere with the way that the camera works in the game and with how many cars are on the road. Whereas with this version of the track, again, like the cars have been slowed down significantly and there aren't nearly as many on the road, and the roads are much wider, so they're easier to avoid. But it's not as bad as like Toad's Turnpike. Like the way that Toad's Turnpike did it, they really just kind of ruined any sense of difficulty just in general. But Moonview Highway, I still feel like has its charms. I still feel like it's a very, very fun track to play, regardless of the fact that it has been dumbed down a little bit. So I think for that reason, this still should be... I think it's probably an S tier. I think it's probably still an S. I don't know if I want to rank it all that high. It kind of reminds me of DK Summit. Like, where everything just feels a little bit slower. And of course, if you're playing on 200cc, then that changes things up. I usually play on 150, but alas, I still think S tier, low S tier for Moonview Highway. It barely cracks it. Oh boy, now we've got Squeaky Clean Sprint. It's a big house level, or I should say a big bathroom level. And this is insane that this was originally on a freaking mobile game. The fact this was in Mario Kart Tour to start is crazy, because there is so much happening. You're driving through a sink, off of towels. You're going into a bathtub. You go through the hole in the bathtub, and you go underneath, and the pipes are all dirty. There's a ring stuck underneath it. You got to avoid soap scum. There's a toilet with a bidet, and you use the bidet water to shoot yourself higher into the air. Like, there's just so much happening in this track. It is absolutely bonkers how crazy the track is. Again, especially considering this started on just Mario Kart Tour. There's just so much happening here. It is so incredible. Not only does it pay an absolutely exquisite amount of attention to detail, but it's just incredibly fun. The actual track layout is really, really varied. There's so much happening. There's tons of elevation. There's so many shortcuts. I've played this track tons of times. I don't think I've even tried every shortcut yet. That's how many there are. And I love tracks like that because it adds a great amount of replay value. And I think for all those reasons, this honestly makes this one of the best Mario Kart tracks of all time. A contender for one of the best of all time. And I think I'm going to probably put this in the top 3, but the question is just where. Because I still don't know if I like it more than Big Blue. I mean, Big Blue, it really just, there's just something about it that is just absolutely absurdly great. But I do, this is the question. Is it better? I want to put it either in second place or third place. I think that's probably fair for this one. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I think I've got it. Like, it's so difficult because Rainbow Road, the 3DS one, and Squeaky Clean Sprint both really tried to innovate and push the envelope so hard. They really went all out with these two tracks. And with Big Blue, obviously. But, God, I don't know. I think, because, like, I still have a slight sense of recency bias. Like, Squeaky Clean Sprint isn't that new of a track at the time of recording this. It's only a couple years old still. So, I just... I don't know where to put it. I think I'm going to have to put it right below Rainbow Road. And that's honestly the only reason is just because I like the music more Rainbow Road. That's really the only reason why. Like, it's very, very hard to pick, like, the top of the top when all these tracks are, like, 10 out of 10s. They're all virtually perfect. But now, let's go back to reality. Mario Kart Tour's Los Angeles Laps. This is a weird track. First off, I really don't like the remix music. They got rid of the boss singers, and they just replaced it with instruments, which kind of takes away a lot of the charm of the track, in my opinion. Now, with that said, I would say the track layout is okay. You start off on a beach, and then you go into a city, and then you go into a freaking oil rig. Like, no, there's no Hollywood. You don't drive through, like, the Hollywood sign or anything. No, how about oil? Like, okay, I guess that just doesn't really feel like Los Angeles to me, personally. I mean, I've been to Los Angeles a few times. That's kind of the last thing I'm thinking about. Feels like a weird thing to integrate into a track like this, but okay. I guess it does kind of spice up the general, I'm going through a city over and over. But what I do like is you drive through Rodeo Drive, which is like a really, really like super expensive street in Los Angeles where like all the stores there are very, very fancy and very, very lucrative. So I guess that's kind of cool you drive through that. But all in all, there is still a lot of city driving. And I mean, the level layout is decent enough to where this is not an F or a D tier. I think this is definitely a C tier. The question is just where. Because like it's kind of fighting between like the top of C tier, between like maybe Peach Gardens and Amsterdam Drift. And I think what I'm probably going to do is put it right below Amsterdam Drift. And that is because I still think Amsterdam Drift does a little bit more with its theme. And not only that, but the themes make more sense for the location. The oil thing, well, I will never understand that. Like, why they chose to do that is beyond me. That just makes no sense. But, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end up putting that. Oh my goodness. Now we've moved on to another Mario Kart, or I was about to say Mario Kart Advance. Well, that's what it's called in Japan. Anyway, Super Circuit Sunset Wilds. What were they thinking with this track? I really don't understand what happened here. This track is completely ruined. Like, it's, first off, the actual layout has been overly simplified to death. Like, it just feels way, way more straightforward than it did in Super Circuit. Like, everything, I think the problem is the track itself feels too big. It should have been scaled down a little bit to make it a little bit more difficult. But not only that, they got rid of the Shy Guy tents on the road. Like, they're still there, but they're not obstacles anymore. So that's been removed from the original. And then the biggest factor, the Sunset Wilds doesn't have a sunset. What? Why? Like, maybe this is something that wasn't built into Mario Kart to be able to actively change the background. Like, maybe I don't think there's a single track that does that at all in Mario Kart 8, but, like, this is, like, a core part of Sunset Wilds. It does this on the Game Boy Advance, and even the Mario Kart Tour version it does this, but not in the Mario Kart 8 version. So I don't know what's going on here. Not only that, but, like, the theme itself is just kind of boring. There's not much to it. So, yeah, this is an F tier. This has to be an F tier. I think for the simple fact that it just doesn't have a sunset, and it's called Sunset Wilds. And it used to have, that's kind of crazy. This has to be pretty low. I don't think it's as dull as, like, Mario Circuit 3 or Donut Plains 3, but yeah, you know what? We're going to put it right there. We'll put it right next to Excite Bike and Donut Plains. But now for some whiplash for you, we've got Mario Kart Wii's Koopa Cape. Holy crap, this track is freaking awesome. It does have a couple of changes. The biggest one is when you get down to the, like, the water pipe section, you're no longer avoiding, like, electricity or fish or anything. Instead, they add, like, a half pipe, and I think they change it to a gravity section as well. A little bit of a weird change, but overall, beyond that, this feels very much like the original track. And Koopa Cape is, again, another darling from Mario Kart Wii. It is just so good. It is honestly really crazy how many Mario Kart Wii tracks are just, like, 10 out of 10s. Just absolutely impeccable. This is another one of them that is just really, really damn good. Like, there's just so much about it. Like, I think the general flow is what really makes it work. Like, the environment's constantly changing. The actual level layout is very interesting the whole way through. Like, I really love the rushing water section. It adds this nice sense of speed. Well, there is more speed, technically, but regardless, where to put Koopa Cape? This has to be an S tier. Like, 100%. Has to be an S tier. The question is just where. I don't think it's like a low S. I think this is maybe a mid-range. I'm talking like it's a car. This is a mid-range sedan. This is like a mid-range track, mid-range S tier. It's probably around the same ballpark as something like Maple Treeway, maybe. I think that's probably fair. I would say it's better than, like, Maple Treeway. It's better than Ribbon Road, Mute City, even, like, Daisy Cruiser. Now, Coconut Mall, I don't know. Coconut Mall still kind of beats it with the theming. Like, the theming here is really great. I don't know. It's hard to beat them all. I think it's going to fit right there. Nice and snug. We are almost done with tour tracks, but next we've got Vancouver Velocity. Now, Vancouver Velocity, what's very strange about this one? Well, I guess, no, it is actually kind of strange. The Olympic Cauldron from 2010 is a big part of the track. You literally drive underneath it, and it's, like, huge, too, compared to how it is in real life. I think it's a bit strange that that's included in the track, but it's still in Vancouver, so I guess that makes sense. But regardless, this is, yet again, another city track. You do drive on this suspension bridge, which is a landmark to the Calipano suspension bridge. So that's pretty cool that it includes that. I do like the waviness of the overall, like, bridge area. I think that's kind of neat. But even still, like, this is mostly a city track. Like, yeah, it does have that one thing about it that's unique. And yes, you do drive through Rogers Arena, which is like a hockey arena, and that's kind of cool. I can appreciate that as well. I still don't think it's anything that crazy. Like, once again, it kind of reminds me of a lot of the other city tracks where it's like, oh, here's like 2 or 3 kind of unique things about it to stand out. But then the rest of it is just driving on a typical road. And not much beyond that. So, this is probably like, if I had to say, probably in the C tier range. I think C tier is fine. It's not as fun as like Los Angeles or Amsterdam, though. We're probably going to put this, I think actually below Bangkok Rush is fine. I think right at the bottom of C tier is perfectly fine for this one. And now we have our very last, well, actually that's not true. There's one more after this, but we've got Rome Avanti next. And once again, we're driving on a city. It has a bunch of landmarks from Rome. It is kind of cool. You do drive. There is like a section where like chain chomps are biting at you. I think like on the second lap. That's all I really remember about this one, though. This is like, it kind of like blends in with like Athens Dash a little bit. Although I think the level design is much more interesting in Athens Dash. Like this one is definitely varied. There is a good amount of things happening here. But I still don't think it's anything all that distinct in general. But it's not bad. It's not too bad. I think this is probably, I mean, like now that I think about it, it really does remind me of Athens Dash quite a lot, especially with even like the way that the structures look, the way a lot of the buildings look. It is kind of similar. It's just not as good as that one. I think this is probably, this is like a B tier. This is like a low B tier. I think low B works perfectly well for this one. Okay, everybody, I need you guys to get your feathers out because I'm about to rustle them. I am not that much of a fan of the remake of DK Mountain. I'm really not. While I absolutely love DK Mountain, I especially like the original and even the Wii version quite a bit. This version just doesn't feel like DK Mountain, and that is because they completely changed. I don't want to necessarily say ruined, but well, honestly, they kind of did. Like, the bumpiness of the mountain is no longer present. Like, you look at the road on the GameCube version and then look at this version, everything here has been almost completely smoothed out. Like, yes, there are still a couple of bumps here and there in a few areas, but the entire road, like most of the road, is totally smooth now. And not just that, but the road is way, way, way too wide. This was a genuinely difficult track in the original game. There is no sense of difficulty whatsoever. Even like the bridge is a little bit wider too. And I get like they have to do that to compensate for the additional amount of players, obviously. It makes sense to widen it a little bit. But like the Mario Kart Wii version is wider, but that one still retains all the bumpiness from the GameCube version. So I don't understand what they were thinking here. Like, I still think it's fine. I like the idea, but I really do think they kind of ruined the stage. But I don't know. I do still like it, but I don't think I can put it any higher than like a C. This honestly might even be a D tier. Well, maybe it's not a D tier. I think this is, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is kind of a D tier. I really don't like what they did with it. Okay, I can't believe I'm doing this, but guys, this is going in D tier. Oh yeah, this is going in D. Will I regret this? No, not really. This is just how I honestly feel about it. I think we'll go ahead and put this at the very top of D tier. And now we have Mario Kart Wii's Daisy Circuit. And it's honestly just really, really similar to the one in Mario Kart Wii. The only real difference is that the original version had like this orange tint to it. I guess to kind of allude to Daisy because she wears orange dresses, she's got orange hair, yada, yada, yada. But this track doesn't really have that orange tint. It just kind of looks like a regular track now. I mean, it still has all of the core elements. It still has the statues of Luigi and Daisy and Baby Luigi, Baby Daisy. So that's all nice and dandy, I suppose. But this is one of those tracks I've never really found all that interesting. Like, I think it's a fun track. It's still fairly fun to play on. But in terms of, like, variety and level layout, it doesn't really do much. Like, yeah, there's a couple of shortcuts here and there, especially near the beginning. You can drive through one of the buildings, and there's that little boost area. But beyond that, there's really not much here. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I might actually throw this in D tier. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that about Daisy's Circuit. But this is one of those tracks where I really just don't have much desire to play it. Like, I'm nostalgic for it like everyone else is, but I just don't think it does very much. It's kind of like on the same level as something like Riverside Park, where it's like, yeah, this is like a decent track, but it's just not much to it. Yeah, I think we're actually going to put it right here. And next up, we have Piranha Plant Cove, and frankly, this is probably my least played Mario Kart 8 track. I didn't play a lot of this pack when it came out. I just played it a few times, but it's another track from Mario Kart Tour, and it does kind of do a decent amount to try to stand out. It takes place mostly in the water, but it is like kind of Piranha Plant themed, I guess you could say, and that's basically the theme. Like, there's a bunch of piranha plants, you're underwater, there is like a jungle section as well, and I do think it looks very nice in general, but it doesn't really do anything all that interesting. Like, you've got a little like glide rail jump at the end, yeah, it doesn't really do anything all that crazy. But it's not like, again, it's not a bad track. Like, most of these tracks aren't bad. I would actually argue none of them are bad. Just some of them are more boring than others. And I think the only reason I find this one kind of boring is just because, like, the music doesn't do anything all that crazy. And the layout is fine, but, like, it's stuff we've seen a million times already in the past. So this is probably going to be, I think maybe D tier is a little bit harsh. It doesn't inherently do anything wrong. But yeah, probably, you know what? I think we're going to put this, it's better than like a city track, that's for sure. So better than Vancouver, or the Bangkok Rush, probably New York Minute. It's kind of on the same tier as like Choco Mountain. I think let's actually put it a step above that. Well, we have made it to the final four, and we have also made it to our very last Mario Kart Tour track. And that is Madrid Drive. So this is, of course, based off of Spain, or I guess Madrid from Spain. And, yep, it's another city track. You know, again, I know I have not played a lot of this one, but it's another city track. You're driving through the streets and whatnot. There is a section near the end where you, like, drive through a soccer field, which is pretty cool. I love the Goomba shoe. It's a very, very fun touch to include that. I mean, soccer is huge in Madrid, but regardless, the actual level layout isn't anything, like, super interesting. Again, like, there is the soccer field. I think there's, like, a museum that you also drive through as well on one of the laps, so I guess that's kind of cool. But it's like a lot of the other ones. There's maybe 2 or 3 interesting locations, but the level design doesn't really do much. The music doesn't really do much. I think this is probably, like, another, like, C tier. Say better than Vancouver. I don't know. I'm actually going to put it right here. I think Vancouver and then Madrid Drive. I think that works. And now we have Rosalina's Ice World from Mario Kart 7. This is one of those, like, weird ice tracks that kind of feels like, I don't know why it's called Rosalina's Ice World, but now that I've played this version of it, I get it a lot more. Like, I think they added in the Comet, the Comet Observatory is there, but they've added in the Gateway Galaxy, I think is what it is, the very first galaxy you go to. That's just, like, in the background now. I don't think that was there before, so this does kind of feel more like a Rosalina themed stage, but at the end of the day, it is just kind of an ice level. You do go through an ice cave, which is kind of cool. I do like how the music has a more, like, elegant tone to it, so I do kind of like the music in this one. But still, it is kind of just like an ice stage. It's a little bit unique, I suppose, but yeah, it doesn't really do anything super interesting. I think this is probably, like, once again, this is probably like another C tier track for me. I would say on the higher end, though, just because I do really like the music, and I do like some of the set pieces, and the level design is pretty solid. It's much more intricate than a lot of the tracks I've been talking about recently, so I think for that reason, it should probably go... I think we're going to actually put it at the very top of C tier. I think let's go with that. And our second to last one is SNES Bowser Castle 3. Shockingly, the only remake of Bowser Castle we got in the entire game. I can't believe we didn't get more than just this one. Usually you get a couple of them. But anyway, it is Bowser Castle 3 again, but the actual environment is spruced up like crazy. Like, you're we're basically like surrounded in a big lava-like volcano kind of level. So I guess something like kind of like similar to like Grumble Volcano, I suppose. And it's just really awesome. I think they really did a lot to try to spruce up the track while still making it feel like the original. It still has very, very tight corners. Sometimes the actual square corners are still there. So I think that's really cool that they have included that. And there is like a couple of changes. Like there's a part at the end with some thwomps, and there's like a new like jump or a new ramp that's included at the very end. So there's that, and I guess that's kind of different. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it that I really, really like. It's still not the most interesting track design wise, but I really appreciate the amount of effort they really made to try to make it stand out amongst all the different like Bowser castles, especially all the like lava themed tracks that are already included in Mario Kart 8. But I don't think I can rank it super high. This is maybe like a this is probably again, honest, I don't know. I really think this is a fun one to play, and I'm going to throw it in B tier just because it's a little bit more on the difficult side. I really appreciate that a lot. I think for that reason, we're going to throw this. Let me see. Royal Race. Well, Neo Bowser. I think let's put it like right here. It's not going to be super high up on B tier, but right there should be good. And now, after this, 2-3 hour video, I don't know how long this video is going to be, but we're at the final one, which is Mario Kart Wii's Rainbow Road. Now, this is something that Nintendo could have very easily messed up because this is by far the most iconic Rainbow Road of all time. It kind of is the quintessential Rainbow Road, so to speak, because it really feels like it. Just the actual track layout is absolutely bonkers. The music is just incredible. It just makes you feel so rejuvenated. There's so much to love about Rainbow Road. There's so much that I love about it. And what's so funny is if you die in this track, in the original game, your car like catches on fire as it's like getting sent down space. And for this one track in particular, if you fall off of it, that same effect happens. I love that the developers went in and added that extra detail just because of how special this track is. Like the people that are working on this, they definitely knew how much people love Wii's Rainbow Road, because it really is just that damn cool. It is so wacky. It's got so many like unique parts to it. Again, like the music's so awesome. It's one of the best Rainbow Roads of all time. What else can really be said about it? It is just an absolute banger. Now the question is where to put it on the tier list. I don't know yet. On it, because I'm looking through all of these. It's definitely like a top 10 contender. Like out of all these, like yeah, if I'm looking at all these tracks, I'm probably gonna want to play Rainbow Road. Like most out of the vast majority of these. I don't think it's my favorite track of all time, but it is very, very excellent. I think it probably belongs... You know, let's actually throw it like right here. What is this? This is like top 5, top 6 or something? Yeah. Okay, I've gone through and I basically cleaned up this this tier list here, but yeah, this is all 96 tracks. This video took so much longer to record than I thought it would. I hope you all enjoyed, and as usual, let me know how I'm wrong down below.